but they want to know about the Benjamin. So like, whether it be monthly or weekly, like how much do you tend to make on a regular basis as a video editor?
In the beginning, I guess I was making, when I only had like a couple of creators, I was only making like anywhere from $200 to $500 a week. Yeah, I said like the best that I could do, like where I was kind of maxed out, uh, maybe in the $8,000 to $10,000 range a month, you know, like without any help, and that's like working pretty hard, I guess. I may not even be accurate. I never really thought of it like from that perspective, but
Sup, everyone. I'm your host, Elijah Bilel from the Side Hustler Society. In this podcast or this particular show, we're actually going to be talking about video editing and how to build a steady client base as a video editor, as well as just the day to day living of a video editor, as well as how to expand into having team members under you so that you don't have to do everything yourself. I know that's kind of a mouthful for the show, but we're actually going to have a guest that y'all have seen before on the podcast. During the Bit Summit 2025 panel that I hosted, he was actually one of the participants that got a lot of value out of Bit Summit 2025. His name is Branko, and he's a professional video editor like myself, but he's a lot more further developed down the line. He's actually in the process of building a team that's under him, so he'll have help with his video editing projects, and he wants to eventually offload all of his projects to his staff, and he can kind of enter a more managerial supervisor role. This is important because on the Side Hustler Society, the theme for this season is really how to survive without the 9 to 5 and eventually how can you thrive. And people don't realize that as a freelancer, you don't have to necessarily stay doing things by yourself. You can build a team underneath you, and eventually you can start to grow to the point to where they're doing the projects for you. You pay them decent money, and you're in a more managerial role. Once you start making enough money, this becomes possible. It's like a gateway bridge to from freelancer to business owner. Bronco is the founder of H6 Productions LLC, is a storyteller at heart whose creative journey spans multiple mediums. Growing up, he explored art through short films, music, acting, and photography. His passion for music led him to Berklee College of Music, where he studied performance, production, and film scoring, with a major in songwriting. He has specialized in high impact editing for clients across outdoors, lifestyle, boating, automotive, food, and commercial niches. In 2025, Bronco founded H6 Productions LLC and is actively building a skilled team of editors to tackle larger and more ambitious projects. Through extensive work with a diverse range of clients, he has also evolved into a strategic partner, providing tailored social media growth services when needed. His client roster includes Luke Mafaden, Jacob Knowles, Tiffany Loren, Jeff Allen, who's the winner of Mr. Beast Games, Motorcyclist Magazine, and many others. Bronco continues to push creative boundaries, blending technical precision with authentic storytelling and effective social media strategies. Now that we've talked about Bronco's portfolio and background, let's go ahead and bring him on the show.
Welcome to the Side Hustlers Society podcast, the place where you can find out more about the hustles that are best for you. And of course, make more money in the process. Elijah has been in the gig economy and freelance space for over 8 years and has done over 4,000 deliveries on Uber Eats. Has several video editing clients, many properties on Airbnb, runs multiple YouTube channels, and is the author of the best-selling book, The Anatomy of Financial Success. It's his mission to empower people with the tools needed to be successful. Now, welcome your host, the king of the side hustles, Elijah Bilel.
Okay, we're on. Bronco, how's your day going?
pretty good. I'm excited to be here.
I'm glad to hear it. No, it's been a minute since we talked, really since the last time we did the bonus stream, kind of like reviewing Bit Summit 2025.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty, it's been a minute, but it feels like it's been a lot longer than a minute because things have been real busy. But good. I have to say things have been good.
So speaking of Bit Summit, did you benefit from the Bit Summit effect of like after the summit, like, you know, you're energetic, you're kind of like pumped up and you're able to channel that into very useful productivity?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that Vid Summit put me into overdrive as far as motivation and opportunity. And I pretty much grabbed onto those horns and have been riding that ever since. I mean, it's still going. Um, I mean, for me, I think the unique position of me being an editor, really like something like Vid Summit is, I mean, it was everything and more than what I hoped. So it got my name out there, and I've got new clients, and I'm trying to, I guess, assimilate the new workload. And I have a team of editors who work with me sort of part-time. And in the process of all this, I've been able to hire the first one full-time, and the second one will be hired full-time in January. So it's really exciting. I mean, we just got tons of projects. Currently, I'm editing quite a bit, trying to take it on and just kind of digest everything. So I'm working long hours these days, but it's all for, the future. And I think it'll settle down, and we'll be in a comfortable space. But it's been amazing. On my end, it's been amazing.
Hey, same here. This is essentially a new season of the Side Hustler Society. It's season 3. You're not the first person I've talked to for this season, but the episodes have been coming in like back to back. Like I had 3 episodes last week, kind of coming in, not the same day, because I have on my calendar episode you can't book only one show per day. Like it's kind of overdoing it with more than one, but like one show per day for like 4 days straight. And that's happened before, but the shows will kind of start to pile up on me. Then it starts to get to me mentally. Like, as I have so many shows to edit, I gotta make those clips. And I know people thinking don't use Opus, but that's for the shorts. What about the clips that are like 3 to like 10 minutes to make great standalone videos? Those still need to be done. And as the time of this recording, there's not a software that's really gonna do that for you. And even if they do it for you, they're not gonna really put the B-roll in the right places and stuff like that. But I've actually been staying on top of it, really kind of editing the shows right after I do them so they don't pile up on me. Part of it is because I still have that hypercharged battery from Vid Summit. It hasn't gone away.
Yeah. I mean, I think that approach is really good. I mean, project management for me has been really interesting because it's been changing so much. And now that I have team members, I rely less on doing it right after I'm given something. And so my challenge has been, okay, I've assigned a project, and now I have to move on to 2, 3 other projects, and then I have to backtrack on that project. And where it gets really tricky is when things change along the way. With the creator asks for something different, can we swap something out? And the juggling of those projects and schedules is, for me, like, I guess the most overwhelming thing that I feel. And because there, in the beginning, when I was just editing for a couple of clients, it was like, oh, I get the project and boom, I'm right on it. And it was very simple from, a task, completion, like, trajectory.
Right.
But now I'm wearing a new hat, and it's been, its own learning curve, but, I'm managing, and I definitely like it more. I mean, it's just, you want to grow. I mean, this is, the Side Hustler Society, like, you want to grow, you want to increase the business that you're doing. And for me, I realized, well, as an editor, I could just have only a few clients, and my editing time is just spent with that. And I have a cap on how much I can make because it's just my time, and it's like my effort. But in assuming a role that's more supervisory, and it's a lot of teaching and training people to do things the way I'd like to do it. And then, but I don't know, it's a system that seems to be working well. And for me, it's, the sky's the limit. I mean, potentially it just comes down to, can I make sure that I keep quality up and meet the deadlines? And I think for everybody, you figure out what is right for you depending on your workload.
I'm glad you said that because the theme of this season, like the first season's theme was kind of like being a jack of all trades. The second season theme was lead generation. And the theme for this season is actually how to survive without a 9 to 5. So for those who are doing something as a side hustle, well, how you scale it to the points where you can actually survive off this stuff, then eventually thrive off of this. So you saying that we're actually going to get two interesting sides when it comes to video editing, because people already know I'm also a freelance video editor, but I am a one-person show. I'm a one-person business versus you actually transitioned into bringing people on retainer, so you're in a more managerial role, even though you still do some editing. You now have a team, and I think it's important to know how to scale into that if you want to eventually, graduate from being a one-person business to starting to get more of your time back and taking on a more supervisor managerial role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I would say where I stand in that whole process is in transition, because when you take it to another level like that, there's this period where things aren't, the cylinders are there, but they're not all firing yet. And you still have to be the one to make sure everything happens. So earlier when I said, I edit pretty much from the moment I wake up until the moment I go to sleep. And that's not sustainable. But I know it's temporary because eventually I'm projecting, okay, I have a full timer now. So that's helping out. But I've also expanded my workload. So I went from, okay, this is my sweet spot for me just doing it alone. At Vid Summit, I pushed to get more clients than I could probably handle. And then I got some clients outside of Vid Summit that had nothing to do with Vid Summit.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, oh, okay. How do I do this? I don't have people yet. They put in resignations and they're preparing, but I have like this 2-week window where I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't have them for 2 weeks. So I got to figure out, how do I get these 6 projects done in 4 days? And I'm still in that to a degree because, I have clients that are sort of on deck and they're trickling in. So I've got another couple clients that are sort of slowly working their way into filming and handing me footage and whatnot. And so I am in that point where I don't have my time back yet. So, but I feel like it's close, and that's why I can gut it out and say like, okay, I'm working 7 days a week and I'm working 16 hours a day, but I know it's not permanent, because I mean, you really do feel the effects. Like I miss seeing my family a lot. I mean, my family's around me, but I don't have a lot of free time at the moment. But the whole goal is, well, in a month's time, I'm gonna have like a normal schedule and I will have time to do all these things. But I think that's just like any business. Like if you're in business for yourself, you have to be willing to do that, because it comes down to what you can do and what you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no fallback. If I tell somebody I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. If it means I got to somehow make a 48-hour day, I mean, figuring out how to do that. And that's what it is. And, you hear stories like Elon Musk, like sleeping on the floor of the Tesla factory and stuff like that. And, I've been in private business. My father was an entrepreneur. So I kind of grew up with
you're
mentality.
You're second generation entrepreneur then?
Yeah, I mean, you could say that. I mean, I had a construction business before I was doing the editing, and I was a full-time musician before that. So that's a independent business. I wasn't working for anybody in that regard. So,
that's a good tie into. I was going to ask this question next, because I know before you had a general contracting business. How did you go from being a general contractor to having a video editing business? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah. Well, I would say that it all stems from early days in childhood. What do you want to do in life? My father was an architect, and they were very open-minded. My parents were very open-minded. And when I told them I want to pursue music, or I was also into acting, I almost went down the acting route, but I really like hit music hard first. And I said, well, this is what I'd like to do. And I'm the type of person, like, if I want to do something, I'm putting 100% of my energy into it. I mean, I'm not holding back. I'm not timid about it. I pour myself into it. They saw that and they said, okay, well, we know you're serious, so we'll support you. And I was always into the arts. So like music, photography was a big part of my childhood too. My mom was an amateur photographer for a time. She worked as an editor for National Geographic at one point. She had a dark room in our basement. That was amazing. I mean, when I was a kid, I would go into the dark room and she would put on jazz, and you'd be in the dark and you see the glowing clock and you got some, some cool jazz from like the whatever. She was listening to all kinds of stuff. And it was just a magical experience. And that resonated with me. And so I started doing photography as a kid. I entered some competitions, as like a student categories. I don't know, it was like maybe 12 years old or something. And, won some student awards and stuff locally, and had an eye for composition. And I was making, films with my older brother. My sister-in-law is a producer in Los Angeles. She's 15 years older than me. So when when I was a kid, they would come over, for like the holidays and stuff, and we'd make a short film. And so I loved doing that stuff. And I would edit it on VCRs. Like we would take that, we had the high 8 cassette, and we would put it on a VCR, and I would take 2 VCRs and hit record on one, and that's how I edited it. So that was my actually, I never even thought about it, but that was my first like attempt at video editing. Wow. That's amazing.
Wow. So you've technically kind of been a video editor since that moment without realizing.
Yeah. I mean, at that time, it was just like, I was into everything though. I was into music production. I had a 4-track, a cassette recorder. So I would record my songs with that. And so I know I hooked that up. I jerry-rigged that because the way I edited it, I had my VCR and I had my, red and white stereo input coming out of my 4-track. I hooked up my Discman, and I had, for like my sound beds, I had CDs. And so I would just mix. So we weren't sophisticated enough to have dialogue in these short films. So they were all like silent films with music. So basically it was just, the visual action, and then I would mix music depending on what the scene, we did some Westerns, we did some like, noir type stuff. I mean, we tried to do everything that we possibly could. And,
Wow.
it was super fun. I mean, just.
Well, I mean, like, isn't that the biggest rule of filmmaking, to show not tell? So y'all were kind of forced to show and not tell.
Yeah. Oh gosh, you learned so many lessons. I mean, and that's a great thing to touch on, is that being limited with resources actually can accelerate creativity.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's the other way around, but it's really not.
No, it's not. I mean, it's you don't realize it when it's happening, but you realize it after the fact that, you really learn how to, do things in a way that, okay, if you have all the gear, if you have all the training or whatever, I mean, that's great. You're taught how to do it and everything, but, your skill set somehow, it's like this, your skill set, if you're doing it in a traditional formal way, it's sort of like this linear, approach. And obviously it's quite broad, but when you start trying to figure stuff out on your own, you start getting into these areas that are just so out there. And, I apply all that stuff today.
Well,
So
I mean,
when I'm editing,
what's the precursor of innovation?
yeah,
Yeah, it's usually when you don't have things. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have things, and you have to improvise. So,
in my honest opinion, I'm not gonna turn this into like a a film reviewing podcast, but I will just say this. I personally think that's why a lot of movies nowadays, particularly like the comic book movies, like the MCU and the DCU and all that stuff, I think why the movies have been getting progressively worse is because they have these inflated budgets. I think if they had smaller budgets, they'd be forced to be more creative, like they were back in the day, and we would get better movies.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, it's hard to, yeah, I think that's so true, and I think that's true for any creator. You know, the creators that I've worked with that have gone from very small creators to, like, say, mid-sized creators, they had limited resources. I mean, we started really with just an iPhone, then maybe a GoPro, and then maybe lav mics. And for some of them, it's still there, and I actually recommend that people keep it there for YouTube. You know, it's so hard to compete, because that's the thing. With YouTube, what's so great, with social media, what's so great is it levels the playing field. But you do have to understand that you are competing with Hollywood. You are competing with other, entertainment mediums for people's attention. And if you're gonna try to go high end cinematic, well, guess what? You are now competing with the big boys and girls who are really good at that. And I've consulted, being an editor, I've turned into a consultant as well. That's one thing that's interesting with all this, because I'm working with so many people and whatnot. But when I consult with people,
every freelancer should be a consultant at some point, because you're just going to get so much insight into whatever industry you're in, working with clients, that you have a lot of value to offer to people who are entering the industry in various ways.
Absolutely. And one of the things I always try to tell people is, like, YouTube is about being genuine, and gear and all that kind of stuff is very dangerous because you have to learn it. It requires a lot of effort, and it takes your energy away from being your authentic, genuine self. And, like, oh, did I get the shot? And, oh, I need, this and that. And I keep telling my creators, like, let's keep it simple. Like, even with the edits, like, I don't like, for YouTube especially, I typically I prefer organic edits. I don't like making it about the edit. I don't like getting fancy. I mean, I can do it, and that's fun. I mean, I enjoy that, but ultimately I've learned my lesson. I used to think that was what was so important, and I learned my lesson the hard way with that. And it's really about, like, are you connecting with people? Do they get to see who you are? And a lot of times a fancy edit or a lot of gear and being cinematic can get in the way. Not that you can't do it, you can do it, but it's so much harder. And usually that's something for much later down the road, when you've already established yourself and you want to grow and you want to level up, and it's kind of you cross that bridge when you can, but keep it simple.
And honestly, when you have someone if someone's working, like if someone was to hire you, you're a second set of eyes on the content. So that kind of balances out your narrow perspective, since you're so worried about the gear and certain things. I think a great example of this, and then we'll move on, is actually the Avengers Endgame. Like, a lot of people don't know that in the original script, when Iron Man takes the Infinity Stones from Thanos, and he has it, he just snaps, and that's the scene. But people don't know that actually, after they recorded that scene, the editor that was editing it actually thought, hey, it would actually be great if you would say the line that started the MCU, which is, when Iron Man revealed himself, I am Iron Man. And they thought, that would be a great idea. So they actually got Robert Downey Jr. to come back on set and record it again. And that became one of the most powerful moments in the MCU. But all that was because the editor gave feedback.
Yeah. I mean, outside perspective, that's the benefit of having a team, because whether it's an editor or a strategist, or, you need that, because as an editor, I get tunnel vision in the project, and I need the creator to check me, or another strategist to check me. I make mistakes. it's not like I am the one thing. I mean, I'm just part of a team, and that's the neat thing about having a team. It's like when you trust everybody, it's a check and balance system. Everybody is looking out for each other. And
Mhm.
I mean, that's case in point in say in the Avengers in a Hollywood production. It's like you have a team member who's tasked with one, part of the production, and they're just like, wow, you know what? It would make more sense. And you would think, oh well, that's part of the script, like that's the producer's job or the script writers or whatever. But contributions come from, that's the beautiful thing about a team. It can come from anywhere at any time, and it's a nice thing to have that outside perspective.
Right. Swinging back to the you doing your first editing project for VHS, that actually kind of reminded me of well, actually, I still have this DVD burner, but in my early 20, no, not late teens, actually, I got a DVD burner, and I was making like DVDs from
Yeah.
actually YouTube videos. Ironically, I didn't do
Oh,
anything
really?
with it. Yeah, because I had I still have a PS3, and PS3 can do a lot of things. So I would just mess with the inputs so that the recorder could record the PS3. So I technically could record gameplay. I could record like YouTube videos I
Nice.
downloaded. And I'm not saying anyone do this. It's against what's against the law if you
Yeah.
sell it. But I could actually reproduce like there's something in the system that will stop you from recording like copyrighted. It'll say copyrighted stuff detected. So you couldn't just like copy like cheaper from a dozen like that movie or whatever. But if you
Right.
bought it on Apple and then you streamed it, then you would put it on your iPod and then you put the inputs in, you could record that.
Right.
So I would rent. I'm not saying people do this because it's really not necessary anymore. Like you could just stream, like you could rent something on YouTube, but like I would rent something on Apple, put it on my iPod, then make a movie out of it by burning it on a DVD. Yeah, I did that like with Forrest Gump, and then like that's mine.
Yeah, right. You know, but think of like all these things that you learned by doing that. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, now there are easier ways to do that, and obviously, for the purposes of exercise, obviously, you always. I mean, when it comes to music, when it comes to whatever, you're always ripping something off so that you have a jump point to kind of learn something. And I teach my kids music, and my eldest daughter is a songwriter, and she gets stuck, and I said, well, go learn a cover song. I said, go steal it for a little bit. It's all right. It's gonna lead you to something original. Trust me, because I guarantee you that cover song that you're learning, they did the same thing. And it's not like, if you're trying to pass that as your own, then yeah, that's a problem. But
Yeah.
it's like, but it's a good starting point. And being afraid to get into, or being unafraid to get into things like that, and to experiment. Again, that's what sharpens your skills. That's what pushes new ground, and leads to innovation. So you know I think it's a good thing, as long as you're not trying to pass it off as your own. Selling it.
Right. But speaking of video editing and swinging back to like the business aspect of it, like what would you say is like your most useful tactic or like strategy for like getting new clients in this like competitive landscape? Because a lot of people say it's real competitive and the market is kind of saturated with video editors. So how can I break into it and actually get clients?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the type of person who's just always trying to give the absolute best that I possibly can. Um, I get people out of jams. I mean, I'm sort of known for like being the reliable guy, and being of quality. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, I know I've seen edits that I'm just like, whoa, that's good, and I don't even know that I could do that. Um, but I know that I provide reliability, quality, and speed. And knock on wood, find some wood, I've never missed a deadline ever in
Same
6
here.
years doing this ever. And I've been against the gun, and I've been given projects that were just like, oh my gosh, like, can this be done? And I find a way. And I think that ultimately is like what earns you business. I mean, I think word of mouth has always been, I mean, Vid Summit was for me the only time I've ever advertised. Apart from
Mhm.
that, it's just been a slow burn of, I worked with a couple of people. It was editing was a side hustle for me at the time. I had to do other things. And but eventually it was word of mouth. Somebody saw my work and they're just like, oh wow, like, could you do that for me? And yeah, sure. And then it was a slow build. I mean, it's funny. I was telling a new friend that I met at Vid Summit, that Vid Summit for me was like my sort of overnight, I guess 6 year success, because I'd been toiling around for a lot. I had several jump points where it was just like, whoa, I just increased my pool of people that I work with.
Mhm.
And it was really from just like somebody happened to see some of my work and it's just like, you know what, I need a netter. I'm working with one right now, but they're just busy, and can you do this one thing for me? And I do it. And then they end up coming back. And, I think it's just, don't expect like you can get everything at once. Just take one project at a time, do your best, try to over deliver, to a degree. I mean, I always tried to, I never would shortchange people on, if I had an idea that I wanted to try and it was like of extra value and it wasn't even requested, it's like I would do it because I thought, oh, they're going to like the extra value that I'm providing. And it worked. They're just like, wow. And so now it's like sort of like an unpredictable thing. Like I might throw something in there. They know that that's a factor with me. It's like, we're going to get something that we didn't ask for, but you're not going to nickel and dime us for like, oh, well, that requires some extra work. I mean, I've recorded custom music for certain videos,
Oh,
completely unrequested. And that earns you points doing stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I spent double the amount of time on that video because I wrote a song and recorded it, and I mean, but I wanted to try. I mean, that is fun. I mean, this process, like, I'm taking all the skills that I've developed throughout my life, between music, acting, trying to do, short films and whatever. And I try to access all of that. And I try to let creativity, I want to supplement a creator with whatever I can bring. And when they see like what I am capable of, I feel like, yeah, they didn't ask for it, but I'm gonna give it, and if they don't want it, fine, no problem. I mean, that's funny actually. That custom song that I did ended up being cut out because it was sort of an attempt to kind of do a parody, and it kind of bombed on YouTube. And we decided, you know what? Pretty much the bulk of the video is done before we reach the song, so let's just trim it. Let's just cut it, and it's okay. I mean, to me, I don't mind that all that hard work was removed from like the public's eye or whatever. What's more important to me is that the people that matter to me, my clients, my creators, they really appreciated what I did. And they appreciated it even more that I was willing to sacrifice some of my hard work that I did for the betterment of their channel. And
mhm.
I think that's the thing that you have to, I mean, you're working for that creator. And it doesn't mean it's just as an editor. At least that's not the way I see it. I'm doing everything that I can to make sure that I'm providing them the best chance to have success.
Okay. So it sounds like your strategy, if you will, is 100% like inbound in terms of lead generating. Like people are coming to you, with the exception of Vid Summit. You don't really do any outbound marketing. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've thought about it. I mean, I've never had a website or anything like that until VidSummit came around, and I was just like, oh, I better have a website. And my website is simply just a portfolio. I'm not I at first I was like, oh, I have a landing page and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, you know what? It kind of looks lame. And all people really need to know about me is like, who do you work for? What variety of projects can you do? So like I made my landing page the portfolio page so people can see all the creators that I work with. And it's like, okay, wow. It's like when I look at it, I'm like, whoa, I do a lot of different stuff. And I forget that a lot. But yeah, I mean, I do a variety of things. And I think that when people see like, oh, can this person do what I need them to do? I think that answers the question. And then it just comes down to talking one-on-one. And, I think that's not the only strategy. It's just the way that I've done it. So.
Right. So with you really focusing on inbound marketing, I would ask, because people say this all the time, build it and they will come. And that's great. And it's true. But let's say you're in the process of building it, they come. I think one thing that's kind of overlooked is clearly when people do come, you have a way of closing on those clients. Like, because people, they may be building something and it gets them the leads, but they don't actually know how to close the leads. Like, they may fumble the ball, so to speak. So how do you feel you're able to, when people come, essentially their leads, how are you able to close these leads and transition them into clients? Now, it might be very natural for you, since I'm going to go out on a limb and say you have limited experience as an employee. You've been surrounded by entrepreneurs your whole life. You've had businesses in the past. So you may automatically be doing this. And they're like, you didn't really give any thought. Oh, it's just been part of my life so long. So you might have to. So how does that work for you? Because some people, they get off the 9 to 5 and they're in this thing, but like they don't have those years of experience. What we want to say to them?
Yeah, I think the closest that I can come to being relatable to that, because you're absolutely right. I've never, ever really been an employee. I've worked for my dad. I don't think that really counts. But
I think that's in the gray area. Technically, you did, but since it's in family business, kind of like in that gray area.
It's not. There's a lot of leeway when it's a family member, but and I was a kid too. I mean,
right? Okay.
the patience that your employer has when it's your son and he's a teenager. But I think the best way I can represent that though is this: when I was in construction, I had my own company, and it was just me. And there were times when I did advertise. And I was hustling. I was trying to find clients. I was trying to find projects. And I felt like, oh my gosh, I gotta like get out there and sell myself and sell my services and this, that, and the other. And I'll say the biggest thing why ultimately I had success in that business, but I also felt that I failed. And I think I failed because I was not passionate about it. And I think that's the biggest difference between why I am succeeding in this business versus the construction business, because I absolutely love what I do. And I always tell people, like when I have my first meetings with people, I kind of like apologize ahead of the time. And I say, I'm really sorry. I'm going to get really passionate. I'm going to get really energetic, but it's just because I love this stuff and I feel like I can help you. And I have not been the right fit for everybody. It's not like I land every person that I work with. I've worked with a number of creators that we worked out for a little bit, and over time it's just like, you know what, we're just not a good fit, and we part ways. Their way of doing things was different than the way, or just don't see eye to eye. But I've landed some new clients recently, and it was just because it's like I get excited talking about this stuff, and I help motivate people. Like that's one thing I noticed, like, this business is so isolating. It's really a unique thing. It's like you stick a camera in front of yourself and you're vlogging or something, content like that. It's hard. People don't understand what a creator goes through. But when I talked with creators who've never had a team before, and I explain my passion, I energize them, and they energize me because they're excited about something. Like when they, oh, what do you think about this idea? Let's like, I could do this. I have this available to me. And it's just like, whoa, and I get excited. And it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, what if you did this? And it's like, a brainstorming session, and it's so exciting. And I think when people see that that's what they get with me, I think that's what, closes the deal. And I never really, again, like when I ended construction, I decided I did not want to do things strictly for money, because that's what I was doing. And I didn't like it. I was not enjoying my work. I was not enjoying my lifestyle. And I truly feel like your profession is your lifestyle. So you better pick something that you're going to be passionate about. I mean, I know a lot of people have said that. There's a lot of, business people. There's a lot of, people that are very successful. They'll say that. And it's so true. It's like, you can't be successful if you're not passionate about it, because I guarantee you there's somebody in your field who is passionate about it. How are you going to compete with that person? In construction, I was up against people who loved this stuff. They loved doing business. I got cut up alive by these people, because I was not like, I was a contractor, but it's just like, I didn't have a love for it. I didn't, live for the deal. I didn't, I'm pretty much more of I'm a creative, and it's like, I don't like fooling around with stuff like that. It's like, here's my price. Don't try to fool with that. I won't try to fool with it. It's like, here's my price. Let's go. I want to create. And I'm giving you everything I got. And I don't know, I think it works with some people. With other people, it doesn't work so well. And I think just understanding who you are and diving into it unashamed is going to lead you to the right clients. And will, like opposing magnets, it'll just push away the clients that are not good for you. Because I have to say, like, so far, all my clients right now, I mean, I'm onboarding some new clients, so there's a little bit of a feel out process, but so far so good. Like, I mean, I really enjoy conversing with all my clients. Every time I get a text message from one of them, I'm not like, oh God, what is this? What's this going to be? No, it's like, what's next? Like, I'm excited, because normally it's like an idea, or we've got this, or we got that. And, it's fun. And I think if that's your priority, is, I mean, yes, it's hard work what we do as editors, but I love it. And when I think about my life as a contractor, I won't trade the hardest day of being an editor for that. And
I'm familiar with because I'm a real estate investor, and real estate investors, they need to work with GCs, or general contractors, and that number is like, it's very numbers heavy, and like you got to make there's this tension until you work with someone on multiple projects, then it's different. But like, there's this tension of like, is this person going to try and screw me over? Or on both sides, like on the investor side, like, well, what if he wants to get paid up front? And like, I don't know, you're not going to get paid up front. I'll pay you in portions throughout the deal. Like, well, if I need the materials, like, well, if you want me to, I can accompany you to Home Depot and give you what you need for your materials, so that you can go ahead and get started, and we'll be etching out, you getting paid for, like, there's this tension on both sides. And I can see how you could be like, I'm just so over this shit. Like,
man, I lived that for 15 years. That exact scenario. Yeah, tension is the right word.
Yeah,
it is the right word.
Being a video editor is so different. Like, one of my clients, he actually is a real estate investor, and he's also a realtor. And he's starting a YouTube channel to really serve as not just a portfolio, but he's going to be showing off like the homes that he's building, the building process, and the homes he has for sale. His clients as a realtor, and he's actually going to be starting a podcast where he's going to be bringing on different people in the real estate industry to be breaking down like how to do certain things. And I'm his editor for all that, and it's just I actually just recorded a video like last week, because I've been working with him for a year, and it was just strictly just like client appreciation. Like, hey, I appreciate you. I'm working with choosing me as your editor, and I see you're building like this real estate empire. I'm looking forward to contributing to it in 2026 and seeing the seeds that you've kind of grow, sprout. And he's like, yeah, I enjoy working with you too, Elijah. And that's the kind of relationship I have like with all my clients. So it's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, when I was a contractor, I can count on one hand with fingers in reserve how many clients I had that were like that, where, they actually cared about me and I cared about them. And, like when you're in that relationship with a client, it's like you want to do, you don't count the extra things you do. I don't need to count that stuff. I throw in stuff like earlier. I mean, I throw in stuff because I care about them, and I think, oh, this would help. This would be good. I hope. I think. And I've had some like great ideas like that where somebody's just like, I don't really like that. It's okay. I don't mind. I tried, and just because one idea didn't hit, it doesn't mean that I'm going to stop doing it or whatever. But I think that having that's the fortunate thing. I mean, I think because I put my priorities straight, my client base is the right client base for me because I'm doing things that are genuine to me, and I'm not trying to be somebody that I'm not. And I think it pays off in the end. So,
you know what? This will be a good question in that regard. Have you thought about using AI for essentially any kind of a lead generation or client acquisition, or not really? Based on what you just told me, I could see how it could be useful, but I could also see how it might attract the wrong type of people towards you. So, do you have any interest in playing around with that in the future, or not really?
For lead generation, no, because I mean, I'm at the point now where it's like I'm trying to keep up, and maybe at some point I would get there. But honestly, I think my next thing is producing original content, because I'm more concerned about AI coming for my editing job. And I'd rather start producing original content that I own outright, and then that can't be taken away. And I think that's my way of diversifying. I mean, I like doing that stuff anyway. I mean, I have family that are all interested in this stuff. So we've got, going in on a channel together and stuff like that, where we split it and stuff. And, that's very much at its infancy phase. But I would say, like, I use AI for supplementing videos. Like, I never, sometimes I'll use AI like on thumbnails. Sometimes I use AI to like accentuate a joke or something like that within a video. Like I've used, it's funny. Like I didn't think much of it, but I showed a video to my brother the other day, and he lost his mind over it, and because he's like got this, he's been really just like AI. Oh gosh, AI, everything's AI, and we hear, he's a musician too, and we go back and forth with like all these like AI remixes of, I'm sure you've seen whatever, all these genres that are just blown up. Like you've got a metal genre that's turned into disco and funk, or a jazz like standard that's turned into, vice versa, whatever. And it's all AI, like nobody performed it. And some of it's just like, whoa, that's scary how good that is. And so anyway, I showed him how I used AI to make a joke. Essentially, so one of my creators, he's been doing these like boat reviews, and it's always like a bad decision. Like he buys a boat and whatever, and he's like, I've done it again. I've bought another boat off of Amazon I shouldn't have. And for years now, there's like a poster of like this mariner, like a black and white poster of a mariner by like, old ship's helm and stuff. And he's got the like, the slickers on, and like the hat and stuff. And so I took that poster and I threw it into AI, and I made that still poster roll its eyes and give a sigh, like after he says, "I did it again." And it worked out so well. It was really cool. I mean, it worked out like just the way I was hoping it would. And that, it doesn't always happen like that, but I used AI for a split second as added value to a video. And so that's how I typically use AI, where I can like that. So, but lead generation is an interesting thing. I never thought about it. And I don't think I have the bandwidth to accommodate that. Like right now, I have to be very careful about onboarding new clients because I'm tracking to have a couple more onboarded, or a couple of clients are sort of, I'm encouraging them to increase their video production. And so that obviously means more work. But I feel like that they're going to be more successful if they're producing a little bit more content. And I have to be able to, make sure that I can handle that. So, that's kind of where I am with that.
Yeah, because as a video editor, you need to be aware of your maximum capacity at any point. How many clients can you take on? And it is a balance because, just to be honest, and we'll get into this in a sec, but video editors can make pretty good money. So it's like you can make some pretty decent money, but you also have a cap on how much you can do in a day and maintain the quality and maintain timelines. So there's a magic number of clients you can have at any time, and you need to know what that is. And once you hit that, it's a danger zone to take on more. And if you're not going to build a team as your next step, you need to be partnering with other video editors so you can refer them to other video editors in the meantime, and maybe get paid a referral fee off of that. But
yeah, I mean, there is a cap, and that's the thing. Like I hit it, and I realized, well, I have a family of 6, and I realized like, okay, I love doing this, but I do need to earn more, and then I had the opportunity to hire team members. My team members are family members, and they're kind of just coming into the job market, so I'm teaching them. They're essentially apprentices, and it's a good situation for me. Not everybody has that situation. Maybe you find, it's funny. It was interesting at VidSummit. I remember seeing signs from creators. I think Eric was there, and he had a sign that said, looking for a video editor, $100K a year. And I saw that and I was like, whoa. I mean, I was kind of like taken aback by, whatever. I just wasn't expecting to see like, advertising like that. But I mean, it's not like it's outlandish or anything like that. But I was like, wow. I was thinking about the price. I was like, wow, that's pretty good. I mean, for one client, like, I don't know what that involves. Like, does that mean you're exclusive? I didn't. I was like, I kind of kicked myself places. Now. Yeah, I kind of kicked myself now. I didn't. I saw it and I laughed. I was like, is that for real? Is that serious?
Are you regretting that? I actually didn't see it. Are you regretting like, I should have put my bid in?
Yeah, I didn't because I thought, I don't know. I just like, again, I was so overwhelmed by VidSummit. It was my first one, and seeing people that you respect, on YouTube, like I watch a lot of these people's videos and I learned from them. And when I was very young in this game, like they were already there. So I definitely have, tremendous esteem for, like Nick Nimmin and like guys like that. And Hayden Hillier Smith was there. And I was just like, I was, there were a couple moments where I was like deer in the headlights, like, whoa. Like I don't know. I somehow wasn't prepared for that. And what's great, I think next time I go to
it happens to everyone for their first VidSummit. It's not just you. They're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think next VidSummit, I'll be just like, hey, because I understand what VidSummit is now. And I understand that it's really meant, it's colleagues, so it's like, I realized that I have a certain level of expertise where people at VidSummit came to me and were asking for advice, just the same as you would ask Hayden or, who else was there? I know Nate Black was there. And I didn't see him, but if I ran into him, I love watching that guy. I mean, his analytics on stuff, just his breakdowns, and it's like those type of people. Those are the people you need to be talking to and establishing a relationship with. And I wish that I had approached them for that sign, and at least asked, like, all right, so what's the deal? Like, what are you looking for in an editor? Would it be a good fit? And there's, I think for everybody, there's, my model, you can pick and choose what works for you and look at others and do the same. And there's no one right way to do it. And I think it's just learning as much as you can, being a sponge and just absorb what you can and figure out what works for you.
Right. So you were actually, when you mentioned the gig for $100,000 per year, that's actually a great segue into how do you go about pricing your services as a video editor?
I kind of, it's funny. At first, I did a lot of work for free when I first got into it.
Okay.
Again, it was not like I did make a leap, but I was still doing some other work. I wasn't doing construction, but I was just doing side stuff, whatever, finding a way to make ends meet. And I had done well to the point where I could make a jump into a different endeavor for a limited time. But my price was basically like, just pay me what you can when you can. That's what I told my first creator that I worked with. And he's a great guy still. I mean, I love the guy. He's so great. And we have a great relationship, and the success is, I use his channel as a model for a lot of my other clients, because like things function so well, and he can't believe it when I tell him that. I tell him, it's like, man, you're like the gold standard as far as I'm concerned. The way we operate. He's like, really? Like, we're so dysfunctional. I was like, no, you're not. You're not dysfunctional. Trust me. But it eventually turned into some like more corporate type edits. And I just asked, I said, like, what are you paying? What are you paying your editors?
So
And,
like what is the budget, more or less?
Yeah. I mean, I just said, what are you paying the other editors? And, it fluctuated. It was just like, okay, yeah, I can do it for that. Sure. Why not? I'll try it. And then they would come back, give me something else. And then it would be like way harder. I'd be like, look, guys, I mean, I can't do it for the same price. I mean, that project was a bear. Okay, well, what do you think would be right? And then it was just tweaking. I mean, there was I did, honestly, that question really scared me in the beginning, because I just didn't know, like, what's the rate, And then I would find out what other people are charging, and I would just kind of see, like, okay, I guess my quality is just as good, and I can charge the same, and now I feel like my rate is a fair price, but obviously it's not for everybody. I mean, it's for a creator who's already doing something, or it's a business who has a advertising budget and they're viewing YouTube as, grassroots advertising, and they got to spend to do it.
Right.
If you're a creator who's just starting out and it's, you got nothing, I mean, you're not ready to hire out a team. You have to, cut your teeth on your own for a while, learn all these things, like start editing yourself so that you understand what's involved when you pass it off to an editor. I mean, as a creator, if you're in front of the camera, you kind of have to learn all the jobs. So that way, when you're ready to have a team, you can delegate and you understand they're doing a good job, or, oh, they're not doing a good job, and I need to make a change, because you're aware of it. So, but my prices essentially got established just based off of working with different people. And I do have some custom rates for certain people, just because of how much business they've provided. I mean, I think all that stuff is, you can't be hardline with it. You got to be flexible. And there's some projects where I definitely feel underpaid, but I feel like the long-term gain is worth it. And like, don't be shy to do some work for free, or to feel like, oh, I over delivered for that price. You know, that you will have an opportunity to reset that. And I don't think of this as a short-term like endeavor. I think of this as in the long term. And I've had moments where, you know, I thought, this is it. Like, we're going to part ways. I just can't keep doing this or whatever. And, you know, you always try to make yourself like not make any rash decisions when you're feeling like that. You want to make sure that you take a step back, consider, you know, sleep on it, and then figure it out. And I'm so glad there were moments like where I felt like I got to part ways, and for like a whole week I was like, yeah, tomorrow's the day I'm telling them I can't do it for this price anymore, and it's time to move on and all that. And I didn't. You know, I slept on it, and I was just like, and I'm so thankful that I didn't, because yeah, we hit some rough patches, but those rough patches ended up being such a blessing as far as like solidifying relationships. And so there's more to, like, think of your price per edit. Obviously, if it's a one-off, you know, you give a price and that's it. But if it's a client that's going to be a repeat client, you got to think about, how much money am I making over the course of a year, 2 years, 5 years? Like, did that person, you know, several of these clients, like, they brought me other clients. So like, I feel so like fortunate. It's like, wow, you know, I'm glad I wasn't like, you know, giving in to like, oh, I deserve more, all that kind of stuff. And then part ways. It's like, they wouldn't have brought me somebody else, and they wouldn't have like tooted my horn and say, he's a great guy. Like, he's so great to work with. You're going to love working with him. You know, it's like, we go through all kinds of stuff, and he's always there for me. And I wouldn't get that type of review if I treated it like dollars, only dollars. And I think that was the lesson that I learned from contracting. And I keep telling myself, whenever I get into that, it's like, I did not get into this for the money. I mean, yes, I did, but this is not why I do it. I mean, I'll tell you this. There are some projects that I do that are like for charity type work.
Like nonprofit?
There's, yes. Yeah, there's some that are nonprofit. And some of them have been just like really tough. But then like, I finish it and I feel like $1 million, because I know that I contributed, and the people that hired me to do it are just like, this is amazing. Oh my gosh. Like, they put their faith in me to carry their message across. And, you know, it's like, these are people in need. Their message, you know, they're trying to get their message out to donors to help fund research for a cure for something or whatever. And, you know, it's like, when I finish a project like that, I'm getting emotional now. It's like, you feel so good. And I feel so fortunate that I made some money, but I got to do a project that is like big picture stuff.
Branko, it's interesting to hear you say that. I would ask this because since we're the Side Hustler Society, people are gonna ask me to kind of like press for like tangible numbers. So like, could you give an example of, like, it doesn't have to be a current client, but someone you meet, they want to hire you as an editor for like a project, and you think that this is gonna be a long-term relationship. Like, what would you charge for that project to, you know, get started? I guess we can go ahead and assume that they're YouTubers, since that's kind of the bulk of your client base is the creative type. So what would you charge them?
I mean, I typically have a template that I don't know that I'll give you a range. I don't want to say.
Yeah, a range is good too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've done edits for as little as $100 to $3,000. And it really comes down to how difficult of a project is it? How much footage, I have a feel now where I can see like the the gigabyte size of the project. What camera are they shooting on? Are there multiple cameras? Is there music? Is there sound effects? Is there production? I have like a package where it goes by duration of video. So like, if you have a 15-minute video, if you have a between 15 and 30 minutes, if you have 30 minutes plus, but then it's also comes down to, how complicated of a video is this? Like, can I just throw all the footage up and just boom, 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 go? Or do I have to like really be creative? Like, am I bringing a lot of like creative decisions to the table? Or is this a formula of rinse and repeat? And when it's a formula of rinse and repeat, my price is cheaper because it's easier. And, but if it really requires a lot and requires some more of my creativity, then I'm going to, charge more. But, I would say like editor prices it's not uncommon, anywhere between 250, 500, 800 per video, depending on what it is. And ultimately you just gotta, gauge. The other thing I do also is, I tell people, I think this price would be right. Let's do one. And let's see if I'm correct in that. And if I'm wrong in it, then I tell them, it's like, look, no problem. That video was that price or whatever. But I think if we're going to do more stuff like this, I think I'm going to need to charge more, or let's consider like changing something up so that I don't have to charge that much, because I don't, it just comes down to like, how many projects can I get done? I mean, it is a good balance of volume and like quality. So it's like, I want some volume and I want quality, but at the same time, I don't want to be spinning my wheels. I mean, because that's what I did in the beginning. I would spend 2 weeks editing one episode when I first started out. And I mean like 15-hour day edits for 2 weeks. And they're still up there. You can see them. And, it's like, but I didn't know what I was doing. And that's why at that time they were free, and I was learning. And, once when you have, a frame of reference of like what you charge and that picture becomes clear, and you'll feel confident. I mean, the other thing too, it's obvious, like, if you start getting a lot of business, you can start weeding out the projects that are, if it's a repeat project and it's just tough all the time, and like, you can weed them out. I've done that a couple of times where the fit wasn't right, the pay wasn't worth it, and I was just, like, okay, it just not going to work out. And it's not like I was the only one who felt that. It was felt on both ends, from the creator side and my side. We just felt it didn't work out, and certainly the money wasn't there for me to say, oh yeah, I'll suck it up. But hopefully that sheds some light on pricing.
It does. So like, a video editing is such a vast niche, and I know it's kind of like an oxymoron, like how something vast but niche. I need y'all to understand, like, everything you're watching on your Netflix or your Hulu or your Disney Plus, all that, you wouldn't be able to be watching it without editing being done. And how much do you think they're getting paid for that? Well, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure they're getting paid a lot. Meanwhile, there's every video you see on YouTube. Hopefully, some people put stuff up without it being edited and it's garbage. Please stop doing that, by the way. But yeah, that requires editing too. So like, there could be a project. Well, actually, a good example is like a podcast like this, or maybe even an in-person podcast, where the editing for something like that is going to be more mechanical, more routine. Doesn't really require too much creativity. It's just very mechanical, very routine. And that price would be different from a video that wants to be kind of, Mr. Beast inspired type editing, like, the flashy adding, like every 2 seconds there's a pattern interrupt, and that stuff is going to take more creativity on your end, more time, more energy, potentially more revisions if there's more back and forth between you and the client on what they want changed. So the prices need to reflect that. So you see how that's two different price dynamics. So while you could probably make $100,000 a year in both scenarios if you focused on one of those type of audiences or clients, but you wouldn't take on as many clients with the Mr. Beast stuff, but you could take on maybe 8 or 9 clients with the podcast stuff. But since it's so easy, so robotic, so formulaic, not only could you do it faster and handle that many clients, you could actually use AI to speed up the process and that type of editing too.
Right.
So, yeah, that's why pricing can be such a vast topic in video editing in particular. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many ways to do it. I mean, I have different prices for shorts too. Like when I'm doing shorts or Facebook squares or, I have clients who tell me we want Opus clip edit. I used to do that. I don't do it so much anymore, but one request is I want it like just a step above AI. So cut me a short just a step above AI. And it's funny, like I've seen some of my creators, like I don't do shorts. It's such a mixed bag. Like I do shorts for some, I don't do shorts for others. And it's interesting how that ends up working out. But
I only personally do shorts as part of a package deal. I don't do shorts alone. Like, hey, can you make a series of shorts from no, I actually don't do that anymore. It's got to be part of a package deal where I'm editing, like, let's say a whole podcast and clips from that podcast that are 3 to 15 minutes for standalone videos. If you want to add shorts on top of that, then I'll do it. But I don't edit shorts alone.
Yeah, I mean, I charge a la carte. So like I charge, like if somebody wants shorts, okay, here's kind of my price on shorts. Unless there's something, strange with it, something unusual. And I typically I prefer doing long form than shorts. But shorts, like, I mean, sometimes shorts are great. Like I'm just like, wow, I just knocked out 2-3 shorts and I'm making, like, if you're looking at it per hour basis, like there are times where I'm just like, whoa, my hourly rate just went through the roof because I was able to knock this out so fast. And then it's like in those times I start thinking, it's like, wow, maybe I should only do shorts, but it's not like that happens all the time. I charge a flat fee that's agreed upon.
I was going to ask that. If you charge a flat fee or hourly, yeah, definitely flat fee.
Yeah, I mean, I charge a flat fee if there's like an expedited request. I'll charge something extra for that based on the difficulty. There's no set price really for it. I mean, I think that you have to gauge all those things, and you're gonna learn from making a mistake, and that's what happened with me many times. It's like, I shouldn't have done it that way, but okay, now I know. And that's just part of the process. Again, you got to think long term. Don't think of it as like every job you got to win, because honestly, if you look at it from, okay, I didn't win financially on that job, but I did win with knowledge, and I won because I won't make that mistake again. Now you've set yourself up. You have to look at it from the perspective of, okay, the next few times that situation comes, I will win. I will come out the way I hoped. And back to like the shorts, like if you're given, there are clients that I have that are not regular. They're sort of like irregular clients in the sense that they come around every few months, and then they'll ask me to do a package like that. And I charge typically still the same way. Like, oh, we want a video out of this and we want some shorts out of this. And I said, okay, well, the video, if it's this, it's going to cost that. If you want 3 shorts, it'll cost this. But it's not very different than, like, say, my regular clients who like expect so many shorts a week, expect, and obviously the content dictates that,
Yeah.
strategies change. We're constantly changing strategies on how to make these shorts. At one point we were making, and I know a lot of people, so there's a lot of different opinions on this, where it's like volume, or quality. And we're doing experiments right now with that. Like, is volume better than quality? And I have to say, like, I think the jury is out for me with that. Or maybe it depends on what you do. Maybe volume is better for a particular creator versus another, where quality is better. And I have one creator who, he started out doing shorts and he was extremely successful, and that's what really broke him, was shorts. And he would routinely get, viral videos, routinely. And he started experimenting with, rather than, but he really cared about quality. Like, every little clip, every frame, we poured over it. It was time consuming. And then he decided to try to do, he hired a company to do volume. And so we're kind of watching, and it's like, okay, yeah, these shorts are not nearly as good. There's a whole bunch of stuff here that is so different. And his fan base, like, mentioned it. It's like, this is like, something's weird here, And he's releasing a whole lot more shorts, like, I don't know, 2-3 a day versus like 1 a day. And the quality isn't as good, but it's volume. And you can see, like, when you look at the analytics, you see, like, when he started doing this, like, all the view counts per each short is way down compared to the other ones, but the number of shorts is greater. And I am waiting to hear results back on, like, is it worth it? My daughter has 2 million followers on Facebook. Wow. And her success was due to volume. And so I know it can work. And I think it also depends on the platform. So there's so much nuance. That's the thing. It's like, I feel like we're going to go down a rabbit hole. There's nuance for days. And this is part of, like, the strategy side. Like, when I'm working with a client, I get into nuance for them, like, what would work in their situation. And it's a deep rabbit hole. So
okay. I'm actually kind of curious how that's going to turn out myself. I mean, when you find out, you have to let me know. But I know.
Yeah, I'll let.
Okay, but I know some people probably wondering exactly what software do you use to edit videos, and what software do you have your Are they contractors or employees? The people, your team?
No, they're contractors.
Okay.
And we use Adobe Premiere. I got into that from the beginning because when I was doing, prior to me doing YouTube editing, I was doing still photography for about a year, and I was a photographer. Yeah, so I got into Lightroom and Photoshop at that time. That's all I was paying for, and I knew editing and YouTube video creation. At that time, I thought I might become a creator, not an editor. I never thought I was going to become an editor. And I thought, well, okay, I've pretty much learned Lightroom. I'm learning a lot with Photoshop, and I guess it'll make sense to go into Premiere. Everybody says it's like one of the top. I know there were other, choices out there and stuff, but I was like, well, I'm already learning the Adobe suite, so I'll get into that. And things moved so quickly that I didn't have an opportunity to, because you see on YouTube all the time, it's like, I switched to DaVinci Resolve and I'll never look back, or whatever. And I never had the time to make a switch because it's like, I got to move quick, and I don't have time to learn a new platform. So I am an Adobe slave. I am stuck with Adobe.
I know Adobe Premiere Pro and also know iMovie. I started with an iMovie. For a new video editor, I know it is an investment because Adobe does cost, but if you're gonna, it would probably be best to start with what you end up with as a video editor. As a creator, I don't blame people for starting with something like iMovie that's free, like I did.
I would recommend it.
Yeah, because you're not
Yeah.
going to be making any money until you get monetized or set up the
Yeah.
revenue platform. But if you're going to be a video editor, the moment you land your first client, be willing to do stuff for free. But eventually you'll start making money a lot faster. So just start off with it. I still remember like when I was getting involved in video editing as a freelancer, doing it for other people, and I was using iMovie for the most part. And I finally bumped into a client with a bigger budget, and she was referred to me by a current client. And so when we were talking, she asked what I use for my editing. And I already knew at some point I was going to have to transition to something else. I just told her Adobe Premiere Pro. She said, "Oh, that's perfect. That's what I use," because she's a YouTuber. So she said, "Yeah, so if you use that, that's great." Then she sent me the first project. I was like, "Okay, I guess this is happening now." So I downloaded Adobe Premiere Pro and I went like mentally crazy for like the first day because I didn't know what I was doing. I was looking up tutorials and all this. It's like, look, just close the deal and you'll learn this stuff. And then within like 2 days, I had the basics down to where I can match the iMovie quality. And then eventually, obviously, I was able to do much more stuff with Pro. So my skill level was higher. But some people might not have the emotional bandwidth to handle that. I don't recommend it necessarily. Maybe you should just start off using both. I mean, eventually you use both, and you'll fall back on iMovie until you get more comfortable with Premiere Pro. On a gradual process, and just use Premiere Pro more, and then boom, you'll transition. I did it instantly because I had a client that wanted me to use it. It's all right. Well, it's time, so I had to cram it all in like 2 days. I don't necessarily recommend that though.
Yeah, I mean, I think you end up finding that is going to be a universal situation where you have to do you're tasked with a project and you don't know exactly how to execute it, and you got to go figure it out. And I got to do that today. I have a project today. I got to do that. I got to fool with some After Effects that I'm not like, I don't do it all the time. And so I'm not relishing that because I can't quantify how much time I'm going to spend. I might have a really late night. It may be easier than I think. That's the problem. Like the beautiful thing about the Adobe suite is that the power that it has is quite amazing. But that's why there are specialists that deal with, like there are people who only make maps. Like they make map animations. There are people who only make, specific stuff like that, which is amazing to me that like that there's such small niches like that. But, for me, when I started out using Premiere, I had a little bit of time on my hands to kind of like say, okay, I want to figure this stuff out. So I went on YouTube University and learned everything. How to speed ramp, how to quick cut keys, your hotkeys and stuff like that. And then, it's like it's a continuous learning process, and that's one of the things that I'm super excited about with my team that I'm developing, is that I'm teaching them things how I do it, but they're rapidly expanding their skill set. And I keep telling them, I said, I cannot wait for the day when you're teaching me stuff, because I know we're approaching that, and you're going to learn stuff that interests you. And then I want us to be able to have a round table and say like, oh, do you know about this? Do you know about doing this? No. What's that? And it's just like, wow, we get better together. And that's like one of the exciting things about like where I'm going with my editing group, is that I want to push the envelope. I want to be able to provide our clients with a level of editing mastery that we can go to if we need to. But it excites me to be like the tip of the spear with this stuff, because I'm humbled every day. I watch a YouTube video every day and I'm like, oh man, I feel ashamed. I don't know how to do that. And, I hope, your viewers can understand, like, I'm pretty experienced. Like I am very happy with my client list. I am very happy with I'm very proud of what I've been able to accomplish. And I still feel very humbled on a daily basis. When I see somebody's video, I'm just like, whoa, that is good. Like, I can't do that. If somebody asked me to do that today, like, I'm going to have to go learn something. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, like, you never feel like if you feel that way, you're going to feel that way forever. You're not going to be like, oh, I know everything.
That's actually, that's an employee mindset. Like employees, they're taught to know so much about one little thing. But when you're in business for yourself, there's a concept like no graduation date. There's never going to be a point where you know everything you need to know to perform your duty, because it's really a fallacy. How can I put this? It's really relegated to the employee world. Under no other circumstance is that mentality healthy. Like if you're going to be even just a contractor, that mentality is a poison. It's going to limit you. If you're going to be a business owner, it's going to limit you. If you're going to be an investor, it's going to limit you. Any other area financially outside of an employee, that is a bad mentality to have. So this whole like graduation date mentality in terms of learning, you got to get rid of that if you want to branch off into not just entrepreneurship or freelancing, but really anything financially. Get rid of that mentality and see how much further you go.
100%. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you always have to be, that's the thing. I mean, I guess that's a scary thing for some people. It's like, you know, you never shut it off. You never stop. You never punch out. You know, there are moments where I get distracted and my mind is off it, obviously, and you can't be thinking about it all the time. But it's like, you know, I'll wake up at 1 a.m. and there'll be something on my mind about like, shoot, I don't know how to do that. I think I need to figure out how to do that. That would probably help me. Or you never stop learning, and it seems daunting if that's like a new realization, but I think you have to approach it from the standpoint of, oh, well, it's so easy to learn it. I mean, never before could you learn things the way you can today. And I did not go to school for this. You know, everything I learned on YouTube and trying it and figuring out how to do it better and watching more YouTube videos. I mean, I regularly watch YouTube videos on how to do stuff in Premiere. I will never stop. I'm always going to search out for that. Bunch of stuff I know, a lot of things I don't. Or it's a different way of doing it. And then there's software updates and everything is new all over again. So like you can't know it all, you know?
And the kind of balance, like what we're saying, we're not saying we're saying it takes a different mentality towards learning. I think people get into this mindset because they associate learning with boring and like, I'm not doing something right, so I have to learn something new. And ultimately, I hate to say this, but as an employee, when you do learn something, like your income isn't really going to be impacted unless you get a promotion. And, you know, that's rolling the dice if you get that. But in any other area of life, when you learn something new, it's going to be reflected in how much money you make. You'll make more money. So learning starts to emotionally, it just becomes a curiosity that could benefit you later. So like when you have that thought at 1 o'clock in the morning, it's not a dread feeling that's attached to it. It's a genuine curious feeling that like, oh, now it's good to know that. You know, maybe I'll make some money off of it at some point, but I still enjoyed the process of just learning it just for the sake of it.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something that's really funny too. I've learned some things that I don't do enough of so that it never becomes ingrained. And I know it just well enough, like, oh shoot, but I'm gonna have to watch it again to do it. Like I'm gonna have to like go back to the lesson.
Me too.
I mean, it's just, you can't know it all. There's so much to learn. And again, the beautiful thing is it's right at your fingertips. You type it in what you want to know and somebody's going to teach you. And, you know, in the past, it used to be much more difficult because people would be long-winded with it. But now everybody figured out, it's like, oh no, I got to provide this information like in a short. Like, oh, awesome. I can learn what I need to do in 1 minute.
Yeah, because people have the attention spans of a squirrel nowadays. We have TikTok to thank for that.
Yeah, but I will say this. I'm very appreciative of that when I'm in a time crunch. You know, it's like, oh gosh, it's like I'm editing something and I'm in my flow, and it's like, oh gosh, okay, I got to do this one thing, and then I got a whole bunch of other things to do. It's like, do I stop what I'm doing now? Do I go on YouTube, learn how to do it, and then do it? And so it's like, if I hear this whole like diatribe about stuff I don't need, it's very frustrating because like the clock is ticking. And, so I am very appreciative of those like concise tutorials. They are so handy when you're in a jam. So
That's true.
and then
That's
save
true.
them, like save them because you will come back to them.
Yeah, favorite them, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you spoke about in a sec we'll start winding down the show. But when you were talking about your team, I'm pretty sure there are video editors that are listening that at some point they probably will reach that point where they have too many clients and they can't take on anymore. So it's time to go ahead and build a team and expand so you can accommodate more clients and maybe even streamline the process for your current ones. Like exactly what is the process you use to expand to hiring like your family members? And like, is there anything you want to share about that? Because you mentioned teaching, like
Yeah.
do you literally talk to them on the phone? Do you set up a series of SOPs? Do you record yourself editing a video and then have that available that can be used in the future for training? Like, what's your process for that?
A little bit of all of that. I would say, in my particular case, they're all my team. They're all actually my nieces from my wife's side, and they're all much younger than me, and they're entering the job market. It's not hard to convince people to like get into YouTube and social media. I mean, everybody is interested in it. So, but I would say, like, if you have a cousin or a family member who, especially if they're a teenager, it's like, I mean, what an opportunity. It's like you have a chance to be. I love the mentor apprentice, like when you think about the Renaissance and how artists had apprentices and they would learn from the master. That relationship, I feel that's so valuable. Like if you can find a relationship like that, for me, like that's what I wished for. Like I could learn from the master and, just learn the way they do things. And I think if you're an editor that's experienced, it's a great way to build out a team. If you have that situation, you find somebody, a relative who's young, who's hungry, who's passionate about it. And it's like, show them and, help them out wherever you can. Like, I bought computers, for my nieces. I've done tutorial videos for specific things. I don't do that a whole lot because, again, on YouTube, people are making videos way better than I'm gonna, a couple of times where I felt like I had to make a video to show how I do things specifically that they're not going to find. But, they're, when I watch them, I'm like, gosh, these are so bad. These videos are awful. Like, I feel embarrassed that but it was for a specific purpose. And, it's only for that. It's not, I would never post that on YouTube because it's like the most awful tutorial video ever, but it was for a specific purpose. But then one-on-one, that is, as boring as that is the fastest way for somebody to understand how you work. And more importantly than, they can learn Premiere, they can learn all that stuff easily on their own. But making choices, that is the editor's job. Making choices, what moves the story, the timing, all that stuff that you have to experience. And it's one thing to see. It's funny, like I've had some of my nieces say, before they got into it, they would say like, oh, I could do that. They watch a video that I've done. It's like, oh, that's easy. and I remember hearing that. My wife was telling me stories like that. And I'm like, oh, really? It's easy, huh? Okay. We'll see. and then there was the reality of just like, oh, it's a lot harder than I thought it was. But That's just like, because it doesn't look like much, because you don't understand like what's what at that point when you've never done it, and
Right.
what you didn't see is the stuff that was removed. And that's the hard part. It's like, you see the finished product and yeah, it seems that makes sense. But, when you're dealing with the raw footage, it's not clear what that is. And
Mhm.
so one-on-one, I think, and that's what we're about to do with my team members. We're gonna do some serious, and I'm so excited for that. Three of us are gonna just edit together in a room,
Hmm.
and you got a question, boom, ask, answered. I mean, we do video conferencing and stuff like that, and that's fine, but it's tough. I mean, you develop a list of questions, you ask them, you answer them, and okay, I'll try it. But it's like
Mhm.
when you're one on one, when you're in the same room, I cannot give the nuance. Like I on a video conference, I cannot give the nuance. It's like there's a million situations that there's a reason why I'm doing what I'm doing based on so much just analysis. And it's a feel. Like I cannot write it down. I cannot, it's like if you watch me, you're going to ask a question because I didn't even know, like, you don't understand something.
Right.
It's like, oh, why did you do it like that? Or, and so much of that comes down to timing, like, why would you give more breathing room here between a cut? And why would you, there's so many tricks, there's so many things for retention. There's so many ways that you can milk retention and make it look natural.
Hmm.
And those are the little tricks that experience brings. And when you're one-on-one, in with somebody who's experienced, your level of knowledge is going to rapidly increase rather than, okay, here's a project, go do it. I'll give you notes. And, you can do it that way. It's just slower.
Gotcha. Oh, that's actually pretty powerful to hear. I think that shines a new light on people who would be looking to bring on people on their team. Look at the family tree first, because that would be a scenario where you could set up that one-on-one
100%.
instead of instantly going to look on somewhere like Fiverr or Upwork or something like that. Like just look in your backyard first, and you probably get the best result.
Yeah. And you'll be rewarded in so many more ways than just having somebody to, you know, accentuate your business. You're teaching a valuable skill to somebody who, hopefully matters to you because they're family. you know I think it can be such a wonderful work environment because, especially with somebody who's really young, they're going to have excitement, they're going to have, a youthful energy.
Gonna have
And
excitement.
well, I
No,
mean,
no, no. I know. I get what you're saying. Like,
I,
teenagers.
I've worked with I've worked with people who were not really into it before,
Gotcha.
and this is important. Like, any teacher knows this. You have a student who wants to learn. Oh, it's a big difference between teaching a student who wants to learn and somebody who's just like, I was told to be here. You know, any music teacher will tell you that. Any taekwondo teacher will tell you that. Any school teacher will tell. I mean, that's why I say a family member, I think, would be better, especially if they showed interest. Like, you can't just pick,
Yeah.
some random person. It's like they gotta want it, and if they want it, then that excitement. That's again, that ties into my excitement with my clients.
Mm.
I'm
Okay.
trying to make it so that my team is just as excited as I am and just as excited as the client is. And I really believe there's something in that energy. Like it just, it transcends and it spills onto the camera. So yeah, sorry, I think I interrupted your point on what you were making about that. But
No, you just
if you
expanded
find,
on it.
yeah, I mean, finding, because again, I think this is a young person's game, especially if you want to stay on the cutting edge. You know, I mean, I feel like a dinosaur. I mean, I feel like I think I'm 10 years older than all my clients. So It's so funny. I was working with like a group of people, our team, for like 2 years, and we never asked each other's age. And then we did, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so old. And I grew up, my brother is 10 years older than me, so I was always like the young kid in the group. And so that moment that hit where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the old guy in the group. I was like, whoa. But
That stuff happened fast, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it was eye-opening, but then at the same time, I feel, I feel really happy about that, because I feel like I'm staying on the cutting edge.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, this is a little bit of a tangent, but I met somebody at Vid Summit. Oh, he's like 17 or something like that. And he asked a really good question when Linus was talking, and I was like, oh, I think I have an answer for him. He asked a good question, and then it just so happened the next day he happens to sit right down next to me for another like big presenter, and I was like, oh hey, like I saw you ask that question the other day. Anyway, he and I like connected briefly, and he hit me up after. He sent me an email, and I watched some of his videos, and I was like, oh my gosh, his videos are so good. Oh my gosh. And I was so humbled. This 17-year-old kid I mean, it was like, I think it was a video on like Minecraft type stuff.
Uh-huh.
And, obviously it's for a specific demographic. But I was like, wow, his storytelling is so good. His use of like pop-up graphics are so good. I learned so much from him. And he's 17, because that's what he wants to watch. That's what his like friends want to watch. And I think, so tying this into the fact, like if you're an editor and you're seasoned, that's why it's really good to go get a relative who's a teenager, because they're going to have insight. Yeah. So that's the point. The whole story was to make that point, was that they keep you relevant because they see trends, they see things that you don't. And today's day and age, like it's moving faster and faster. So it's so important to stay on top of that. I mean, gosh, I can't tell you how many times I got to search something up and I'm like, oh, what does that mean? Like 6'7" was that. I recently went into that with 6'7", and whatever, just, lingo or whatever. And because it moves so fast. So, and at some point, they're going to feel the same way. It's going to move beyond them. It happens to everybody. So, for YouTube, I think that's a smart play. Have a team that spans some age, because you've got different valuable insight at those age points. So
that's a valid
never
point.
realized it until we talked about it.
Now I'm just thinking, because I guess I'm transitioning into being middle age. I'm 33, but like I think 35 is the age where you kind of abandon the term young adult. And I think you'll be a middle adult or whatever. And like, I'll say this, then we'll move on. Like, there are phrases like Zennials and like the younger generation uses that I didn't even know what that was until I kept hearing it. And then I just use context clues like aura farming. Like, what the hell is aura farming? And then and y'all found out like, oh, well, by their definition, like almost every anime character that has some charisma and existence was technically aura farming, but it's just Zennials terminology.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you got to deal with it, and it's real. I mean, and that's one thing I really enjoy. My kids and I have these sessions, and it's so much fun because they love school and dad. They're just like, Dad, that's so 2024. It's like, okay, well, what's 2025? It's like, you got to educate me, and it keeps you young, and it puts you in touch with things. And I mean, it's legit. You got to know this stuff. You got to know like what your demographic wants. Will that turn people off? Will it help? Will it bring a new demographic onto your content? And that's something that, if you're an editor, I think you got to like care about that information. It's not just like, here's the project, put it together. You got to be cognizant of who the audience is And is the strategy at the time, like, are we appealing to our main core audience? Are we trying to go broad? These are all important questions that you have to, these are questions you have to ask, because I feel as an editor, it influences your choices. And
Yeah.
Who's watching is going to dictate how fast I push content, like how fast do I push pacing. And do I let things play out? Do I make things feel like super fast? I mean, and there's a range, like, it's like, oh, we have a lot of 50-year-olds watching. We have, a big range of 20 to 40. We have teenagers. It's so different. Like, your approach is so different. And, staying in touch with that, I remember, like, well, I mean, I was already old when I got into this. I mean, I was 30, I guess 39. So, I was not, and I was long out of touch with like pop culture and stuff like that. And, it's really, thankfully for my kids and working with other clients who span a different age. And but I will say it's fun. It's like you're learning all kinds of new things. And that's the cool part about working with the team, is that you're not in a bubble. And I'm constantly just being hit with like, oh, I didn't know about that creator. And then you go search that creator and like, that creator has 20 million followers. It's like, whoa, how did I not know about that person? And
Right.
now, you start watching or whatever. So it just helps your experience, helps your understanding of what's happening, out there, because there's so many pockets. It's so funny. It's like, there's so many with my creators. There's these little worlds that exist, and you don't realize how isolating that genre is until you go into something else. And you suddenly realize, like, whoa, this is a whole lot bigger than I thought. Like, there's so many other like areas here. And again, I always take an approach of, how is this going to influence my edit? Who's watching, who could end up watching this, so.
Right. Since you say that, audience would probably shoot me if I didn't ask this. They always want to know this question. So I asked this question, but realize it's under duress. But they want to know about the Benjamin. So, like, whether it be monthly or weekly, like, how much do you tend to make on a regular basis as a video editor, or your business rather, like, whether it be weekly or monthly, how much do you tend to make?
How much I'm making? I mean, it's so up and down. Maybe the best way to address that is sort of like at different points. In the beginning, I guess I was making, when I only had like a couple of creators, I was only making like anywhere from $200 to $500 a week. When I only had like, a couple of clients, and I was only doing long form. But it all depends on whether or not, it ebbs and flows so much. Some months, like, I feel like, oh, this is amazing, we're going to do great. And then the next month, I feel like we're going to do the same thing. And then all of a sudden it's like, what happened? Like, I earned half of like what I earned the previous month. And so there is a lot of volatility, but you can earn anywhere. I mean, again, it's like, I've earned like $5,000 a month. I've earned, trying to think. I have the potential, let's put it this way. I have the potential of earning $20,000, $30,000 a month, because I have team. And the other thing is, it's a hard question to answer, because like, I get asked this too, like, whenever you're like, for you apply for a credit card, like, how much money do you make? It's like, I have no clue, honestly. Like, I can't tell you what I make in a year. It's like, I gotta wait for my CPA to tell me how much I make. But like, you can make $5,000, you can make $10,000. Like, I think working just by myself.
I think another
without
way.
a team.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I said like the best that I could do, like where I was kind of maxed out, maybe in the $8,000 to $10,000 range a month, like without any help, and that's like working pretty hard, I guess. I may not even be accurate. I never really thought of it like from that perspective, but I don't know if you have lead me in a little more direction. I guess maybe I can answer it better. But
Well, I was gonna say another way we could look at it is like, what's your best month you've had, and then like, what's your crappiest month you've had earning wise, and that can kind of give people like an idea. But you already kind of answered it here, like when you're first getting started, like $200 or $500 a week was pretty typical. We just had like a few clients, but then you just kind of share like, and this is before you even expanded into a team. You've had a scenario where you made around $8,000 to $10,000 per month.
Yeah. I mean, there have been months where I've made more than that. And again, like there's really no ceiling. Like I really think this could be a multi-million-dollar a year business if I end up running it right. Where the company is making, whatever, $1 million. There's no reason why it can't. It just comes down to, can you handle the workload? Do you have a team? Because my goal is to have each of my nieces to essentially do what I'm doing, where they have a team and they're in charge of, say, like 5 creators, and they can't edit it all themselves. They have to have their own team. And then I'm more of like a producer's role, where it's like, okay, I like this. Oh, no, we need to do something different. Go take it back, change that up or whatever. And because there's no way I can handle that workload. I have to offload that. I have to delegate it.
One other point that I will say that does really concern me, and again, it's like I think I'm along with everybody else in the sense of I don't know what's coming with it, but I am really nervous about AI. And because already I'm competing with AI as an editor.
Yeah.
So because I know I have clients who are just like, well, we're just going to have Opus Clip do it. And okay, fine. Right.
I wouldn't be too worried, because I kind of have Roberto Blake's philosophy on AI in regards to video editing in particular. It's making it so that the basic things of AI is accessible to everyone, but people who want to go beyond basic are going to still need to learn the editing themselves, or they're going to have to hire someone to do it. Opus Clip is actually a great example.
Yeah.
It's making shorts clip creation very mainstream and accessible to everyone without necessarily having the editing skills. With that being said, it's still just very basic editing that'll throw in some images and some B-roll footage for you. But the shorts that are going like really ultra viral, they're heavily edited. Like, so much editing goes in that 60 seconds, and it's adding sound effects. I think people don't actually realize that. Like, Opus Clip isn't adding sound effects. So
I agree 100%. Like, that's the state of things today. I'm just concerned, and that's why, I'm telling my team members. I told them this is another thing. I don't know if you want to go down this rabbit hole at all, but I told each of them, it's like, I want you to be an amazing editor, but I also want you to start thinking about producing your own content. Now, you don't have to do on-camera content. There's a lot of creators who do stuff that's, there's nobody on camera. So there's so many things that you can do, but that's my strategy on how to offset that, because I don't know when, maybe it won't ever happen, but I at least feel like I got to prepare for like 5 years down the road. Can one of my clients just take all the footage they shot on their Sony, and the software can recognize, oh, this is B-roll. Oh, this is narrative. Oh, this is a better take, and just throw it all in there. And, oh, this is the way you've edited. I have like 5 years of your content, and the AI says like, okay, I'm going to make something like this. To me, that seems very feasible in time. that is a reality that can happen. So that's why I say it makes me nervous, because thinking about this 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what does this industry look like? And that's why I feel like it's important. This is one bit of entrepreneur's advice that I think, gosh, this is interesting, because I'm going to throw this out. My dad told me this when I was very young. He was an architect. He had his own company, but before he started his own company, he worked for a large firm. And, he's a go-getter, a very smart guy. And he did really well in this big firm in Washington, D.C. And a friend of his, a mentor, was telling him, oh, that's great. You're doing this big project and that big project. And he said, but what are you doing for yourself? And my dad was like, what are you talking about? He's like, that's great that you're making drawings. You're creating drawings for these buildings for other people. But what are you doing for yourself? And he's like, well, what do you mean? He's just like, well, go build an addition yourself. You have a house? Go make an addition. Go make the designs for it. Go make it your own project. Own it. And she's like, oh, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Because in the end, it's like, I feel like you can't really get as far as you can working for other people. You got to work for yourself. And that's where I view owning your own content, I think, is the way. It's the same advice that was given to my father that I'm applying, because it's like, yeah, I'm editing for all these people and it's great. It's amazing. But what am I doing for myself? Well, currently nothing. I don't have a channel. I don't have an editor's channel. The only thing I can say is like, I am investing in my kids. Like, my kids want to do this stuff and I'm investing in them. And, that's a client that won't ever go away, because it's sort of like a family operation. But at the same time, I have tons of ideas of channels I would love to create. I just simply don't have the time yet. So
doing what you're doing, eventually you will. And
yeah,
I think that's a natural offset to the AI threat, and it's going to help you sleep better at night. And what's wrong with that? I mean, let's say it doesn't happen. Okay, well, you'll just have another stream of income.
absolutely.
And if it does happen, then hey, you're prepared for it.
Exactly. I think that's the frame of thought. And you can't lose, because like you said, it's just another source of income. And it may lead to something where I just completely phase out editing for other people. And it's just like, oh, I want to just completely focus my energy on whatever project I want to do. Because, don't get me wrong, I love what I do, but it's not like I love every video that I do.
Branko, I got to tell you from experience, you make a YouTube channel, and if there's any connection between your YouTube channel and your video editing business, like your audience knows about it, then how can I put this? I'm speaking from experience. It's not going to replace your video editing income. It's going to explode it. You're going to start, you think you're getting too many people coming to you now? Take how you're feeling now, multiply times 5. Because your channel is the biggest it's the biggest representation of your portfolio than anything else. It's available to the general public, and it has the Google/YouTube algorithm out there promoting it everywhere. Oh, you'll be getting a bunch of people asking you to. At that point, you better have your team expanded to be like, yeah, you'll be turning people away.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially just following my own advice that I tell other people. It's like, why would you have a YouTube channel if you're a landscaping business? Well, for advertisement. So it's like, why would an editor have a channel about editing? Well, for advertisement. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's definitely, well, the other thing too, it's like, where I feel I could give good information, I do feel like I have an angle where, like, I don't see a lot of that information given on YouTube. It's a lot about like technical stuff. And I feel like, oh my gosh, like, so many people are doing such a good job at that. I feel like, why would I even bother getting into that? But there are angles that I really feel I don't see. So maybe I will do that.
Right. But we're about to start winding down the show, but we got 2 questions left.
Okay.
It's interesting you brought up at Vid Summit that organization is basically looking for a video editor paying them $100,000 a year. Now, I'm assuming in that case, they might be looking for a contractor or it might be employee, but probably contractor. I don't know. But I'm asking people this season, like, what keeps them like off the job market? Because everyone that's on this season, they're doing what they're doing full time. Ironically, there's no side hustlers in this season because we're focusing on being a full time hustler. In the video editing case, you can make a pretty decent living as an employee being a video editor. Maybe starting out like mid to high five figures, and as you get more experience, you could easily get into the low six figures. So, what keeps you off the job market with your particular skill set? Why do you choose to just run a business instead of going and being a traditional employee?
Well, I think it's because I've always been an artist, and I've always led an artist. Yeah.
You're psychologically unemployable like me.
Yep. I would say that's the main driver, because honestly, the freedom that is afforded is so valuable to me. I live a very unorthodox lifestyle. We didn't get into it with this, but I spend half the year in the Philippines, and my kids are aspiring artists, and a lot of that aspiration is geared towards over in the Philippines. So for instance, like I'm in Florida, but we've got a place in the Philippines, and I've been here for a few months. I went to the Philippines for 5 days to go collect my family because we had a family emergency here, and I brought them back. I couldn't do that if I worked for somebody else. I don't think. I mean, maybe that's more doable nowadays because there's so much like remote, but it seems like in the job market, there's more of a push to like go into work now. It seems like that whole COVID wave sort of like is not as strong as like remote workers and stuff like that. But, my kids are homeschooled. I don't like somebody else's schedule being imposed on me. And, I've geared my whole family's lifestyle around being flexible to be able to do things. I mean, I'm 45 years old. I've hit a new chapter in my life where my parents, are at the end of their, I hate to say it, but it's just the reality of life. They're at the end. They're both sick with cancer. Oh. And it's been an eye-opening thing. It's like, oh my gosh, our time is so limited for life. And I don't want to give my time to somebody just so easily. And when you're an employee, unfortunately, you do that. You have to follow somebody else's schedule. And, there's nothing wrong with that if you're okay with that. For me, I need something different. And that's why I'm, as you say, I'm unemployable, because I need to be able to travel when my family wants to travel. We are a gig-minded family, it's from our music days. It's like, when's the next gig? We're used to starving artist lifestyle. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like for 2-3 years, man, I was roughing it. My family was roughing it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's all comes down to what you're willing to do. I mean, I never, put my family in jeopardy or anything like that, but we had a lot of tight months, and there were a lot of months where my kids were just like, oh, how come they're doing this stuff and we can't? And I have to explain to them like, well, we're able to do this and that, and it's not always going to be this way. We're working towards this. We have goals and all that kind of stuff. It's a tough lifestyle. It's not, it's not easy for somebody who's had sort of like a plan mapped out and like employment and all that kind of stuff. And it's very different. But to me, this lifestyle is thrilling. It's definitely, there's some stress, but it's thrilling. It's rewarding. And, I wouldn't trade it. I just, running I used to think that I could not run a business. When I finished contracting, my contracting company, I thought, I'm just not a business person. I will never have another business. And when I first started editing, my mindset was like, okay, you're a freelance editor. Hopefully you make enough clients that you can provide a good living. And then it dawned on me like, oh, wow. Oh, I could make a business out of this. And then I asked myself, do I want to make a business out of this?
Mm-hmm.
And my answer was, well, why not? I love this. I didn't love contracting, which is why I felt like that's why I failed at it, you know. And I had some good years too. Like, I mean, I did make some good money doing that work. But I didn't like it. And ultimately, in the end, you know, I realized I'm doing work I don't like, and I'm still not making enough money. What am I doing? I'm going to die. I hate what I do. Why am I trying to go out to try to find more work to do what I hate to do? It made no sense. And I was wrong in thinking that I would never start another company. But when I realized, oh, I can deal with having another company if it's something that I'm truly passionate about, I truly love to do. And, you know, that's the difference maker. Like, I'm willing to do all these things that are necessary because what else would I rather do? Am I going to go, you know, do something that I don't enjoy anymore? Am I going to do something where I'm taken away from my family? I can't see my kids and all that kind of stuff. No, I'm going to do something where I can spend the most amount of time with them, where I can do the things that I want to do most in life. And while I'm definitely not there yet, you know, I work too hard. You know, I want to have more free time, but it's there. I see it. Like, I feel it. I taste it. And hopefully 6 months from now, we have a conversation and I'm telling you a totally different thing, where it's just like, Elijah, life's great. I have like half the day I do whatever I want to do, and the other half of the day I'm working on projects and I got all this stuff firing. You know, maybe that'll happen. You know, I feel like it can, which is why I'm trying. So,
well, you're laying the foundation in place for it to happen. And what you said, I already said this before, but like, this is something that can be passed down to your family. Like, you can't pass down a job. You just can't. But you can pass down a business.
Oh, my 10-year-old boy wants to edit. He's like, Dad, like, are you going to teach me? He edited. We took a family cruise, and a 10-year-old kid side by side. I was like, all right, here's Premiere. He's like, oh, I was just going to do it on CapCut. I was like, no. You're doing it on Premiere. Oh, really? He's like, in 10 minutes. He's like, Dad, this is easy. Like, your job's so easy. I'm like, okay, all right, slow down there. But he edited a 45-minute cruise. And I was like, man, I mean, I helped him, but I was like, you made a 45-minute video.
Yeah.
It was no joke. And he's 10. And so I was so encouraged, like, because what you just said, passing it on, it's so true. Like, if they want to do this, guess what? I'm perfectly willing to show you all the tricks in the bag if you want it. So
that's beautiful to hear.
Yeah.
So last question, then we'll be winding down. I always ask my guests if they have a question they want to hit me with the band question of why'd you start the podcast? Because everyone's heard that already, because people asked it like 5 times. With the exception of that, do you have a question you want to hit me with?
Yeah. So my question for you said you're 30, 33, 35?
33.
33. Okay. So I see you as a man with many hats.
That's an accurate assessment.
Where do you see yourself in, say, 5 years, in 10 years? Do you feel like you're going to continue on with that many hats, or are you going to specialize in something more singular?
That's a deep question. I don't see myself specializing. Reason being is that everything I've kind of set up complements each other.
Mm.
So like specializing, I feel like will kind of hurt the foundation I set up versus continuing to learn about everything I'm doing and expanding it that way will just be expanding the empire. And I'll get some tangible examples of that. So like I kind of see, I'm gonna say content creation. I was gonna say YouTube, but that's giving too much power to YouTube. Ultimately, other platforms can arise. And even though YouTube's a top dog, there's nothing stopping a competitor from emerging and paying you for your content the same way. So I'm just going to say content creation is kind of the centerpiece. Then everything else is kind of built around it. I mean, I became a video editor because I was a quote unquote content creator first, editing my stuff, and then that branched out into freelancing. I got involved in real estate because I used my ad revenue, saved it up, and got involved in my first real estate deal, which was rental arbitrage, where I started leasing apartments and put them on Airbnb. And I'm going to be doing the same thing, except for I'll be buying houses now. So like my book, The Anatomy of Financial Success, that became an Amazon bestseller, it was essentially used to launch the Financial Anatomy YouTube channel because I was making personal finance videos on this channel, ironically, but the audience wasn't responding like I thought they would. You know, they really signed up for how to make money, not necessarily how to budget money, how to review these investment apps. So I respected their wishes and I just put it on another channel. And that channel ended up being 6 times bigger than this channel, ironically.
Interesting.
Yeah, so everything is kind of centered around what I'm doing now. And if I was to like focus on one thing, like ironically, being a content creator, anything new I get involved with, I can make content about that and then it expands that thing. So if I was to remove anything, any one of those equations that I just talked about and just focus on that, I feel like everything else would slowly start to trickle off. So the opportunity cost would be just far too great now. It's kind of like where you're already in, you got to keep gradually expanding everything at a steady pace as opposed to cutting everything else out and just zeroing in on this one thing.
Right. Yeah. You seem to me like it's funny. Like you're the type of person it seems like I work for as a contractor, because a lot of people that I worked for, they had multiple businesses. They had a mattress store plus real estate plus a car wash or whatever. Like they had a lot of different things. And, you know, like, do you find satisfaction and thrill through doing deals?
Is there a certain type of deals or just like deals in general?
Well, I mean, obviously, like if you, for instance, flipping houses like constitutes that. I mean, I did flip houses for a little while, and ultimately I found that I didn't enjoy it. You know, if I was making a killing, I mean, I did pretty well. I won on some pretty big. Some I never lost like a lot, but there were some that I broke even, and that's essentially losing, because if you're not making money, I mean, you break even, you're losing money because you still got expenses.
But and you still have the time you put in.
And your time, right? Exactly. So my point is, like, I would buy a house and I'd have a brief moment of excitement, but that was it. Like, I would sell a house. Like, do you find when you do an endeavor like that, when you find a new angle that you're able to, like, say, use content creation to kind of expand? Like, for me, my joy is creating something through editing, or in the past, it was through music, and I get fulfillment through it. And the fact that I get to earn a living from it is just like amazing to me. So my question to you is, is there something in what you do that you have like, oh gosh, I just love this moment, I want more of this moment?
Interesting you say that. I got 2 answers to that. First one would be, I realized this a few months ago, but I get excitement from doing deals, but I think it's partly because it's taking us back to the old school way of making money, where it's basically me and another person or maybe multiple people, and we all need to make money. So let's sit down and find a way for all of us to make money, like that win-win type of energy. Versus the employee world is quite literally like, this is what you're going to make. And like any future contributions you make, we appreciate that, but we're not going to compensate you for it. And it's just so, versus when you're sitting everything I'm doing outside of that, when I'm sitting down with people, we can figure out a way to make this deal work that's going to benefit both of us. So in other words, you have a seat at the table and don't abuse that seat. Okay. Really be looking for a solution for the other person too. But when you come to that solution where it's really benefiting both of y'all, it's just a great feeling. And the second thing is everything that I'm doing, there's one central element. And Yuli, and what was her name? You see, I'm gonna remember her name when we get off the show. Then I'm gonna get pissed off. But Brunetta, I think her name was. When we were sitting down at Bit Summit, it was actually a little after we first met. The three of y'all kind of mentioned it, like I'm very good with people.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the central theme of everything I have going on. And dealing with people, because I am a people person, that gives me fulfillment too. And it's almost like the businesses are a conduit to really fulfill that desire, because it brings me in contact with a certain type of person that's just very fun to be around.
Yeah.
And I can serve them.
Yeah. And I really sense that about you, is that because you're a people person, and the way you described how you're figuring out a win-win solution for everybody that you're working with, it makes so much sense. Just having met you at Vid Summit and then hanging out with you, the way you do these things. My dad always said, it's funny, this reminded me of another quote my dad would always say, and still says from time to time. He always says, I make the most money when I'm not working. And what he means by that always happens like if we went on vacation, we'd be doing something completely unrelated and we just start talking. And we'd have a great idea about a business endeavor. And we get so excited over it. And he's just like, and then he would say, he's like, you see, we make the most money when we're not working, like when you're not in the nitty gritty. And it seems like you do a lot of that, because you're really thinking big picture. You're analyzing avenues that you can take, for doing business. And it's really amazing when you think about like, well, how do I go make money? It's like, okay, well, you go provide some labor of some kind. For me, it's always producing something. So it's like creative labor. It's creative energy. It's like creative manual labor, but I always found that like people like you that have this knack to have like multiple angles, like really like inspiring. And I felt like I don't necessarily like have I feel like I can do it, but I feel like it's not like a talent of mine. Whereas for you, I feel like it's like a talent that you lean into. And it's super cool, because it's like you to me are like the epitome of outside the box thinking when it comes to just whatever, earning a living. And I wouldn't be surprised. Like, what was her name at Vid Summit? Cami, was it Cami? She was one of the speakers, and I was like, wow, she's involved in so many businesses. Like she's involved in this big concept and that big concept. And it's like, I always found it amazing. It's like, how do these people like do all these endeavors and still have the same amount of time as anybody, So that's why I'm interested in like a singular focus versus like a broad focus. And you seem to be very different in the way I operate, which is so singular in what I'm doing versus, because you do don't you do what's the car service?
The car servers?
What's the car, man, I'm blanking on the name. I'm sorry. It's not Uber. It's not Tubi.
You said car service. You mean like car rentals or something like that?
Yeah. Do you have like a fleet of cars or whatever?
No, you're getting it mixed up with Yuli. She's the one that has the fleet of cars.
Oh, okay. I thought you were doing that too.
No, I'm she's trying to convince me to get involved in it. If it makes sense, I actually might, because it could complement my rental business. Because people coming in, I cater to the business clientele. People coming in town for usually like a business conference or some type of business. And if I had rental cars available for them, I think it actually could complement pretty nicely. So I actually might do it one day. It's just it actually is going back a little on what I said in terms of singular mindedness can help get something off the ground initially. So like I can temporarily adopt that mindset for like 3 to 6 months. That's kind of what inspired this podcast, because I have so many side hustles. Like each one individually isn't enough to make a living off of. But when you combine them, that's when the income is like, oh, you can make a decent living off of them. But I was able to build them up to the points to where like, okay, this is decent money. Let me move on to the next thing and see how this will fit into the next thing.
Right.
Yeah. So I might one day, but since I am branching off into houses for the real estate, you kind of got to focus on that one thing until it's built up enough, then maybe move on to something else. But yeah, but you were going somewhere with that, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was just asking if you saw yourself like 5 years from now, do you consider yourself, a real estate investor? Because it seems like you have the potential of that's just one thing I do, and I do it well. It's like I'm also a consultant. It's like you're, again, like having many hats could be like the focus, and it's just, again, it's how you think of these things, like your perspective on how you go about things. Because there's no, like, again, I don't believe there's any right or wrong way to do any of this stuff. It just comes down to what are your talents? How do you make them work for you? And it's different for everybody. So my solution, your solution, again, like people can take bits and pieces of it and apply it to themselves depending on what their talents and skill sets are. And, I didn't anticipate, when I look at how my career has gone from so many different things, I saw people who were able to do many different things, and I was always just amazed by it. And I felt like my abilities don't trend that way, but was always impressed and amazed by the people who can do that. And maybe I'm shortchanging myself. Maybe I am able to do that. Like when I set it up or whatever, but at the same time, it's like, I think because of my creative brain, it's like I'm always on this path of, I don't know. I feel like I'm always trying to chase that feeling that I get when I create something. And I would argue, like, I'm not even, let's say, like, if you really want to look at it from the big picture, editing is just my conduit to chase the feeling of creation. Because when I finish a project, I feel tremendous satisfaction, just the way I used to, like when songwriting was my focus. I would write a song and I would just be, when I wrote something that I really thought was good, I was on the moon. I was so excited, and just, I felt alive in a way that nothing else like gave me that feeling as far as like work. And for me, it's like editing is now that feeling, because whatever, I mean, my music career didn't pan out where I could just create a song and I could make a lot of money for it, but I get the same satisfaction out of editing somebody's video. I know that I contributed to it. I have creative input into it. And then, look at that. It's 1 out of 10. Oh my gosh. Everybody's happy. We're all like basking in the thrill of success. And I get that feeling, and I've chased that feeling successfully. And what's so great about video editing is like, okay, well, here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. Because the moment is short lived. It doesn't last forever. It lasts, half a day. But it's like for half a day, you feel good. You're just like, oh, yeah, that's it. That's what we're after. And then it's on to the next one. And ultimately, that's what I'm chasing. I'm chasing that feeling of creating something and the joy of creating something. And when it comes to business, like that's truly the best job. To me, it's like that's the best job in the world, is when you're fulfilled to that level and you're able to make a living. And when I see somebody like you in your element walking around Vid Summit, just like somehow everywhere, all at the same time, and it's like that makes me wonder. It's like, okay, for you, is it, how does that work for you? And that's always like what I'm curious about with people is, what is it that you're after as far as, like, what do you chase? Like the way I described for me, like what I feel like I'm chasing. And maybe you don't look at it that way at all. I don't know, but
well,
curious.
Honestly, Branko, like hearing you say that, I could say this. Not only are you psychologically unemployable, you're emotionally unemployable too.
Yeah.
For the simple fact that working a job, there's going to be a cap on passion for a lot of people, and that feeling will dissipate. I'm the same way. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is it's not a bad thing that's going on, because as a creative person, as creative people, we crave that feeling, that satisfactory passion, creative feeling that we get from something. That something can vary from person to person. The challenge is finding a way to monetize the path towards getting that feeling and then duplicating it. And for you, you said the conduit is video editing, and it is, but I think it might actually be something more broader. I think not only is it video editing, but it's the ability to express your creativity through the format of media. And that applies to video editing, but it can also expand into content creation itself. Hence, that's why when you do make your channel, you'll probably still get that feeling. So if at any point, like the video editing is like, hey, I can't do it anymore just from time constraints, you can still have that feeling by doing the same thing with your videos.
True. Yeah.
And for me, I would honestly say that it is for people. And this is why I haven't decided how it's going to happen, but I'm actually taking your advice and Yuli's advice and Brunetta's advice. I am going to start a channel, and it's going to be about like social dynamics. I don't know what the format's going to be, but I have learned that the way I look at things, to me, it feels like common sense, but it's not. It's socially, like how to maintain friendships, how to build connections, stuff like that. I don't know how I'm going to do it, because for once, like everything that I've talked about, there's a process to do it. Like I'm passionate about health and wellness too, but there's a process that I went through to have the information about it. I'm passionate about YouTube and the stuff we talk about, but I went through a process. That's the one thing I didn't go through a process for, strictly like personality based. So it's like I have to pull it out of myself since I didn't go through a process of learning about it. Because I've read books on how to socialize, stuff like Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And some of the stuff in the book I hated. I genuinely hated it. Like,
interesting.
What I mean by that, I'll give an example. Like, he was sharing exactly how to handle a situation when like someone doesn't fulfill their end of the bargain or something. And it was basically like, look, just reach out to him and just kind of explain, like, I think it'd be awesome if, honestly, I partially forgot it because I wanted to, but it's kind of like resetting things so that y'all can start off on another foot.
Okay.
And, they could potentially live up to their bargain this time. That disgusted me. I don't like it when people drop the ball. And the conversation I would have is, honestly, like, how would you feel if I said I was going to do something and I just didn't do it, and I also didn't text you to let you or call you to let you know I can't do it? How would that make you feel? You probably wouldn't like that, right? Well, that's exactly how I feel right now. I'm not trying to disrespect you or anything, but I do value our friendship or our clientship or whatever. But I got to be honest, like we got to take a step back and reevaluate this because that wasn't appropriate. Like, how would you like to move forward? Because if you don't make it up to me, maybe we're not meant to be friends, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people would claim that as traumatic, but I don't. But that's why I have the network I have, full of people with integrity and principles, which is what I want. And some people might want to set that up, but they don't know how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think because you have, you're principled in that sense. Again, it's like I always find like if you don't have an opinion on something, well, it's not a passion, right? You read that book and you clearly had an opinion like, oh, you know what? I disagree with that angle. And, whether or not it's something learned or something intuitive within you for that social dynamic, like you excel at it. So, you've got an inherent ability towards it. And so now figuring out how to monetize that, to where, again, it's like the whole goal is like, how do we monetize the things that we're good at and the things that we enjoy? And, I think it's really interesting. It's sort of going back to it, but it's like, you're a real realtor, or like, are you a realtor or just you're a real estate investor?
Real estate investor. I don't want to be a realtor because that would limit the things I could do as an investor.
Yes. Although I feel like you would be a good realtor too, because of
I appreciate that.
your people skills. Not saying that that's what you should do though, because I understand that game. I know a lot of realtors. I know that game. And it is what it is. I would prefer, that's why I never became a realtor. That's why I became a real estate investor for a time. But ultimately I found like, I don't know, for me, it wasn't, I got out of it and I felt like I didn't have the ability to stick through it, through the highs and lows, because it felt like forced. Like, yeah, okay, I can do it, but it's not easy for me to do. And I had a reset to go find something that, okay, I can tolerate the difficulties within this business because it does come easy to me in that sense. I enjoy it. And for you, it seems like you've got a lot of things that you're into, and I'll be really interested to see what happens, a year from now for you, 2 years from now for you, like what endeavors you're in and what are you still doing too? Like, because if you've got all these like things that you're working on, what is going to remain or what will like fall by the wayside because you found something better to replace it, So I think you have like, in my mind, you have the, like, the top place for people like that who can do many things and not make one thing be the primary focus of your income. So my hat's off to your many hats.
I appreciate that. That's kind of the point of the Side Hustler Society.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll be interested to see how that turns out for myself too. I can say confidently that YouTube and real estate will be a part of it in some form, but everything else could take a different form. It'd be interesting to see what forms those will be.
Yeah. Well, I certainly think like people who have people skills like yours, to me, it seems like you can succeed in a lot of different endeavors because of that. So it'd be exciting to see what you do.
I appreciate it. But you have pretty good people skills too.
Well, I would say that, and that stems from just finding something that you're passionate about. And because I was very much, naturally I am an introvert, but I need to have some ground to stand on for something that I'm passionate about for it to come out. And it's very easy for me to seem like I'm an extrovert when I'm around people like you and the people that I met at Vid Summit, because that's something that like I've thrown myself into unashamedly. But I have other circles in life where I am the quiet one and I don't talk much, which it's, you know, I don't know. I feel like when I'm amongst my YouTube people, I feel like I talk too much.
Okay. I hear you. But speaking of you and your business, where can people get more of you, or maybe take a look at your business, and maybe you'll get a potential client or two once they take a look at your website, or where would they go?
Yeah. So h6productions.com is my website where you can just kind of get the lowdown and get direct access to me. You can see the portfolio of work that I've done. It pales. I mean, it's not like, I produce probably anywhere from 5 to 7 long form videos a week. And I don't know how many shorts a week. So, you know, what's up there is already outdated. Some of them are these sort of like the top performers amongst those creators, or they just showcase like the different types of content that I've done. So you can go explore that and see the different things that I do. And yeah, I mean, if anybody is interested in looking at editing services or consultation for growing a YouTube channel, you can reach me through the website, and you know, we'll take it as it goes. I mean, I again, January, February is going to be really interesting for us, because that's when I have 2 people full time with me, and there's a tremendous difference. So I'm about to achieve a whole lot more horsepower with my work, because everybody has been part time, and now I'm getting 2 people that are full time, and it's exciting because there's a whole bunch of things that I'm looking to do for helping other people to achieve, you know, success within YouTube for rapid growth. And when you're editing all the time, it's difficult to do that. I mean, it's there, but you know, I've taken on a couple clients where I'm purely consulting, and I'm not even editing. And because they're not necessarily ready for that as far as their journey within YouTube, or it's just different circumstances. They may have editing in-house, so they just need an outside consultant to give them some different insight. Because depending on any editors out there, I mean, obviously editing can come from so many different angles. I mean, I started with YouTube, but if you're an editor that started in traditional media, you know, you've got editing skill sets, but what you find when you get into the YouTube world is now you're going to start developing your knowledge base for just strategy. And, you know, that I didn't ever expect that I would become a strategist, because I've learned so much through working with so many different creators. So now it's like, okay, how do we map out the type of content you're going to create? When do we release it? When do we pull back? Then, you know, there's a lot of the consultation is like, it deals with emotional struggle, psychological struggle, because YouTube is definitely a beast that will just destroy your motivation, you know, if not handled properly. And that's something that is carefully considered amongst, you know, I have some creators that have a good amount of success, but they don't have a strategy plan locked into place where they can continue to accelerate their growth without burning out. And that's a big topic, to make a plan so that you can achieve that success that you want, but not burn out, and make it's so funny. It goes the other way. And, you know, that one client I was telling you about that I feel like has, you know, everything firing. It's like we went from burnout to like mental breakdown a couple years ago to now it's like, whoa, this is so easy. Like, we just make content like that, and we've got content for 2 months out. And, you know, I mean, that's the rosiest picture of it, but that's kind of where it's at. And it's like, wow, we went from the brink of like, oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind, to like, oh wow, we've got like 4 weeks of content done, and we're planning this, we're planning that, and now our ideas are better. And again, this is where the excitement comes in, because it's like, oh, what can we do now? Like, we can one up ourselves because now we're in a position to do it. And that's where this gets so fun, is because now you're in a position where your creativity can come out, the things that you want to do can come out, and you're not being hampered by, I got to release something else. What else do I film? I don't know what to film, because that's real. I mean, that's serious stuff that people run into. And there's a couple people from Vid Summit that I'm helping sort of as friends kind of navigate that, and kind of nurturing that side of them to understand, like, okay, like, don't worry, like, it's daunting, but if you come at it strategically, you can get through that phase, and then you go on to the next level, and then the next level. So it's an exciting time for sure.
Indeed. And everyone, make sure you take care of your mental health. That's very important, especially if you're going to be doing it. I was going to say a YouTuber. YouTuber is probably at the top of the spectrum, but really, I'll say an entrepreneur in general. I did a show with Alexis Hasselberg, who's a time management coach, and it was all about mental health. I'll be sure to link to that in the description. Y'all want to check that out, and just make sure y'all taking care of that, because what's the point of making all the money in the world if you end up being miserable and like you don't want to get out of bed? You want to plan for success, and part of planning for success is planning for the mental part of it too.
So true. And I think you're spot on. For an entrepreneur, this is so important. I mean, the mental side of it, it's daunting, because as an entrepreneur, you feel like it's you against the world. There's no, I mean, if you have family that are involved with it, then okay, you're not completely alone, but it's still daunting. And taking care of yourself, the mental side of things, I don't think it can be stressed enough, whatever that is for you. But yeah, it's so important.
I'll say one thing that's universal, and we'll say this, and we'll go ahead and hop off. We all have different things we do to recharge mentally, but one thing that's universal is, I think entrepreneurs, freelancers, and business owners, in general, we can do better with making friends. That other friends that are also entrepreneurs or freelancers, etc. Sometimes like me and my friend Tony, we kind of joke. One time I gave him a call, and we were talking, and like he's giving me a call. He has his own janitorial business that's expanding into other things. I think eventually he's probably going to end up being a general contractor. And he's called me just to kind of rant about stuff. I'm like, huh. And he's been on the receiving end of my Airbnb rants, like when they do some bullshit. And he said one day, he just said like, oh, well, if you can't rent to your homeboys, then what are they there for? Then after he said that, a few weeks later, he called. I called him, and he just started ranting about something. He's like, I'm sorry, bro. I didn't mean to just kind of rant on you all of a sudden. I said, well, wise God once told me, if you can't rent to your homeboys, then what are they there for? He's like, I guess that's true.
Yep.
Because you'll be talking to people that, look, they get it, okay? They really do. So, put in the effort just to make more friends as entrepreneurs and freelancers.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, when that's the part of networking. As an entrepreneur, you network with people that even aren't in your industry, because you've got angles. It's just like, the never stop learning part of the process at whatever you're doing. You're meeting new people. You got something to learn from them, that maybe they teach you something that wasn't even intended for whatever you're doing, but you can apply it to what you're doing, and have somebody who, is a friend in that regard, because maybe, they're not necessarily a competitor, but they're a friend where you can bounce ideas off of, and even have like a side endeavor. I mean, who knows, like, you're starting a YouTube channel, maybe down the road, you and I start a YouTube channel. It's like this type of thing, the possibilities are endless. And, if you're finding the people that are like-minded as far as what you hold important, what you are striving for, a lot of times the growth happens simultaneously because you're working you're working side by side, maybe on totally different, areas of work, but you feel like you're working together and you're kind of sort of like in parallel. And, again, that you don't feel alone. You get outside perspective. And yeah, I think making friends is, really, when I think about it, for me and what I've been able to achieve these last few years, I'm great friends with everybody that I work with. I truly enjoy, I'm sending care packages to every single one of them. I never used to do that type of stuff. I know like businesses used to, like, that's like a thing. Like you send a card during the holidays or you send a care package. I never, ever did that type of stuff. For the first time this year, I feel compelled to do it because I truly appreciate the people that I work with, and I don't view them as just a client. I view them as friends. Like I would enjoy spending time with them for something else other than what we do. And, they've come to my aid when I needed it. And I feel like I do the same for them. And you can't have enough friends when you're an entrepreneur.
I'd say in general, but put a magnifying glass on entrepreneur. Yeah. Well, I think that's a powerful ending statement. Again, we're going to leave links to Branko's website in the description, the pinned comment. And in the future, when he starts that YouTube channel, be sure to shoot me a text, let me know, and we'll update the description to include your YouTube channel so people can check that out.
Awesome. Well, you'll be the first one I contact because you're the first one to push me towards that. So
sounds like a plan. But everyone, if you could give this video a thumbs up, that's very much appreciated. No matter what platform you're watching on, especially YouTube, that algorithm loves a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. And of course, since we're on Spotify now, what was your favorite moment in the show? Feel free to drop it in a review. With that being said, we'll catch y'all in the next episode. I always say be safe and be profitable, everyone.
Thank you, Elijah.
This episode may be over, but your hustling journey has just started. Visit thesidehustlersociety.com to access all links and resources mentioned in the show that will help you on your hustler's journey.